Chapter 1605, Sword Pointing at the Opponent. The determination of Schiff Palpatine defied all expectations of the Supreme Strategic Command of the Galactic Republic. From their perspective, the Principality of Dawn lacked any strategic offensive capabilities. It seemed impossible for them to build an industrial empire comparable to the core and inner circles of the Republic, relying solely on the remote southwest regions. Therefore, the Supreme Strategic Command believed that merely blocking the Rendili galaxy would suffice to prevent the Principality of Dawn from converting the industrial production capacity of the Rendili Interstellar Power Company to their own use. Indeed, the Galactic Republic did block the Rendili trade channel, making it difficult for large fleets to navigate to and from the planet. Consequently, the relocation of some interstellar docks on planet Rendili progressed very slowly. Currently, they mainly import large quantities of food, medicine, and supplies to sustain the planet's massive population, while actively mining minerals from nearby uninhabited galaxies to manufacture warships. As Adel Ulan mentioned, planet Rendili had added 150 Victory-class star destroyers in less than 2 months. Because of this, even though the planet was under the Republic's watchful eye, they dared not take any direct action. After all, Master Yoda had been seriously injured there, and Master Plo Koon had died heroically. The Republic military's fear was palpable. However, this fleet of Rendili could only remain on the planet for the time being, unable to venture out. Some smaller seasonal hyperspace channels around the planet were used to migrate populations. Under such circumstances, actively attacking the Duchy of Dawn seemed like a waste of resources. According to the Supreme Strategic Command's calculations, without the Rendili Interstellar Power Company, the Duchy of Dawn's industrial production capacity was only 1/10 that of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Their warships might be advanced and elite, but it was difficult to form a significant scale. Moreover, the Confederacy of Independent Systems had begun equipping their battleships with technology provided by the Duchy of Dawn, indicating that information between the two parties was interoperable. Attacking the Duchy of Dawn, which had a strong defense but no offensive capabilities, while ignoring the Confederacy, which had higher industrial production capacity and potential offensive capabilities, seemed foolish. Of course, the Supreme Strategic Command dared not voice this unless they were prepared for severe consequences. Schiff Palpatine used his emergency ruling power to forcefully pass the plan to surprise the Mater sector, instructing the Supreme Strategic Command to start preparations immediately. The command, though reluctant, could only tactfully inform Palpatine that the operation would be very dangerous. But Palpatine insisted on proceeding. When the governor of the Ninth Army, Dun Wessex, approached him with the Kuat Power Shipyard's interest in joining the plan, Palpatine readily agreed. This was a compromise to the military, as the Kuat Power Shipyard would bear most of the pressure for the surprise attack on the Mater sector, reducing the military's burden significantly. The military could finally breathe a sigh of relief. On one hand, they provided support to Governor Wilhuff Tarkin, giving him the strength to go north and fight against the Geth. On the other hand, they increased their troops in the Salukami galaxy, striving to secure the portal towards the escaping spaceship. The Republic commander's voice echoed through the communication channels, urging his pilots to intercept the vessel at all costs. The spaceship, sleek and agile, darted through the sky with the Vulture droid fighters forming a protective formation around it. The Republic's V-19 Torrent fighters closed in rapidly, their engines roaring as they prepared to engage. "Target locked," one of the Republic pilots reported, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Engaging now!" Blaster fire erupted in the sky, streaks of red and blue light crisscrossing as the two sides clashed. The Vulture droids responded with precision, their automated systems calculating the best defensive maneuvers. Despite their efforts, the Republic fighters were relentless, their superior training and coordination giving them the edge. Inside the escaping spaceship, the atmosphere was tense. The pilot, a Kifar with a determined expression, navigated through the chaos with skill. Beside him, a co-pilot monitored the situation, their eyes darting between the controls and the battle outside. "We can't hold them off for long," the co-pilot said, his voice strained. We need to jump to hyperspace now. Almost there, the pilot replied, his hands steady on the controls. Just a few more seconds. As the Republic fighters closed in, the spaceship's engines flared brightly. With a sudden burst of speed, it shot forward, leaving the Vulture droids to cover its retreat. The Republic pilots, realizing their prey was slipping away, intensified their assault, but it was too late. The spaceship vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Republic forces behind. The commander on the ground clenched his fists in frustration, knowing that whatever or whoever was on that ship had just slipped through their fingers. Back on the planet's surface, the Republic's occupation continued. The streets of the capital city were filled with the sounds of marching soldiers and the hum of patrol vehicles. The once bustling metropolis now bore the scars of conflict, with buildings damaged and the populace subdued. In the central government building, a high-ranking Republic officer reviewed the situation. His stern face reflected the weight of responsibility as he considered their next move. The capture of Kifu was a significant victory, but the escape of the spaceship hinted at unfinished business. "Commander," a subordinate approached, saluting smartly. "We've secured the planet, but there are reports of resistance cells still active in the outskirts." "Deploy additional patrols and increase surveillance," the officer ordered. "We cannot afford any more surprises, and find out where that ship was headed. We need to know what they're planning." As the Republic tightened its grip on Kifu, the galaxy continued to be a battleground of ideologies and power. The clash between the Galactic Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems raged on, with each side determined to outmaneuver the other. And in the shadows, figures like Darth Sidious and Darth Malthael played their own dangerous games, their ambitions driving the conflict to new heights. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the struggle for control of the galaxy showed no signs of abating. The spaceship continued its course, seemingly indifferent to the chaos around it. It sped away, leaving the Vulture robot fighters to engage the Republic fighter jets in a fierce battle. The Vulture robots fired relentlessly, determined to create a diversion and ensure the spaceship's escape, even if it meant sacrificing themselves. Chapter 1606. Terrible Information. The spaceship that took off flew at an insane speed, pushing its engine output to the maximum. It soared towards the outer atmosphere, shielded by Vulture robot fighters. The location chosen for the ascent was particularly clever, exploiting blind spots in the planet's outer orbit. If it managed to break through the atmosphere, it could potentially evade its pursuers and initiate a hyperspace jump to escape. However, the Republic's army quickly noticed the suspicious actions of the spaceship. They couldn't allow this vessel, which clearly had something to hide, to leave. Over 50 V-wing fighter jets launched from Jaeger-class battlecruisers stationed in outer orbit. These new Republic fighters converged on the spacecraft from multiple directions, swiftly shooting down the escorting Vulture robot fighters. Realizing it had no chance of escaping the planet's atmosphere, the spaceship veered towards the thunderstorm area in the northern hemisphere, seemingly intent on self-destruction. Despite a frantic chase, a V-wing fighter jet from outer space managed to intercept it. Before the spaceship could enter the thunderstorm area and self-destruct, it was struck by a missile and crashed into a jungle. The Republic's army quickly dispatched units to recover the downed spaceship, while fighter jets hovered overhead to prevent any further incidents. Attempts to escape from the spaceship were immediately thwarted by the circling jets. The army arrived at the crash site within half an hour, deploying soldiers to search the wreckage. Inside the crashed spaceship, they found a Kefar pilot who was severely injured, but still attempting to destroy the memory unit. After neutralizing the pilot, they retrieved a partially damaged memory unit. This piece of memory was sent to the spaceship for analysis and repair by the Engineering Technology Department. The next day, the contents of the memory unit were decoded, revealing astonishing information. The occupants of the spaceship were members of the Scientific Research Department of the Principality of Dawn. They were on the Kefir planet to seek assistance from Kefalian scientists in producing a superconducting material. This material required further processing using powerful electric energy and the thunderstorm area of Kiefer's planet was the ideal location for this. Surprisingly, this superconducting material was one of the main components in the group shield system of the Titan battleship Xuanwu. The memory unit contained the processing method for this material, but lacked detailed information on its function within the Xuanwu battleship's shield system. However, the technicians of the Galactic Republic identified the model of the Xuanwu Titan battleship, the Ankron-class Titan battleship. The most crucial revelation was the inferred location of the Ankron-class Titan battleship's construction site, the hidden Titan shipyard in the Yago-Dur galaxy. This piece of memory was immediately sealed and sent to Coruscant, the capital of the Republic, along with all personnel who had accessed it. The Republic's intelligence department was tasked with handling the information. In fact, during the Republic's Battle of Eliadu and the subsequent attack on the Eriadu galaxy, the Republic's intelligence department had already harbored suspicions about the source of the Titan battleship, Xuanwu. At that time, the hyperspace outpost of the 20th Army detected abnormal hyperspace fluctuations. These fluctuations were significant and concentrated, more intense than those caused by any individual spaceship, yet different from those caused by a fleet's hyperspace jump. However, this information was later ignored by the Republic's Ministry of Intelligence. Regardless, the Titan battleship Xuanwu had already appeared, guarding the Eliadu galaxy and forcing the Republic fleet to retreat with no room for resistance. Now, the findings from the Kiefer planet have resurfaced this information, which had been overlooked for half a year. Every hyperspace fluctuation caused by the Titan battleship was analyzed, leading to the conclusion that during the Battle of the Eliadu galaxy, the hyperspace fluctuations from the Yago-Dur galaxy were indeed from the Titan battleship Xuanwu. This leads to an accurate conclusion. The Ankron-class Titan battleship Xuanwu was built in the Yago-Dur galaxy, and another Ankron-class Titan warship is currently being constructed there. The prospect of a second Xuanwu sent immediate shockwaves through the Supreme Strategic Command of the Republic. Just one Xuanwu is already formidable. The presence of another would make the battle nearly unwinnable. According to the Supreme Strategic Command's analysis, a fleet led by the Xuanwu could counter a Republic fleet 3 times its size. With 2 such battleships, even 10 times the troops might not suffice. This critical information was promptly delivered to the desk of the Speaker of the Republic, Schiff Palpatine, who immediately convened a meeting to discuss the matter. The discussion centered on whether to launch an assault on the Yago-Dur galaxy to occupy or destroy the Titan battleship dock, preventing the construction of more Titan battleships. However, the Supreme Strategic Command had initially planned to attack the planet Christophsis. Although less strategically important than Yago-Dur, capturing Christophsis would significantly weaken the Principality of Dawn. The intelligence department of the Dawn Star Army had previously detected frequent hyperspace fluctuations between the 20th Army and the 17th Army. The 17th Army was indeed undergoing reconstruction, leading to frequent material flows, but the activity of the 20th Army was deceptive. The Yago-Dur galaxy, a 3-body galaxy, had previously thwarted several attacks by the Republic's 20th Army. The galaxy's environment is extremely unfavorable for fleet deployment and significantly impacts fighter formation maneuverability. This negated the Republic fleet's primary advantage of overwhelming force, forcing them to divide into smaller fleets to attack the powerful Argonev-class interstellar base. Adding to the Supreme Strategic Command's frustration, the 20th Army's movements were initially meant to deceive the Principality of Dawn. Now, with the real plan to attack from this direction, it seemed as though they were inadvertently revealing their strategy to the enemy. Strategic deception had turned into strategic disclosure, an ironic twist indeed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1607, Gears of War, Part 1. The revelation that an Ankron-class Titan battleship was being constructed in the Yago-Dur galaxy sent shockwaves through the Supreme Strategic Command of the Galactic Republic. The news was nothing short of explosive. The Ankron-class Titan battleship, known for its terrifying power, was a force to be reckoned with. The entire Galactic Republic dared not even glance at the Eliadu galaxy because of the Xuanwu's might. Such is the power of a Titan battleship. Now, with confirmation that this Titan battleship was being built in the Yagodur galaxy, it was impossible for anyone to remain unmoved. After extensive analysis, the Republic's Ministry of Intelligence suggested that the information might still be questionable and could have been deliberately misleading. As the war progressed, intelligence work on both sides had become increasingly sophisticated, making it harder to distinguish between true and false information. However, the potential benefits of the information were enormous. If the Titan dockyard could be destroyed, the Principality of Dawn would be unable to produce another Ankron-class Titan battleship for a long time. Even if the attack fell short of complete destruction, delaying the construction time of the Ankron class would be a significant victory. In the most optimistic scenario, if the Titan dockyard could be occupied and some complete parts of the Ankron-class Titan battleship obtained, the result would be nothing short of a dream come true. Relocating a Titan dock of this size was not a simple task. Even if relocation were possible, it would take more than half a year to reassemble and resume production. Thus, the Galactic Republic would achieve its goal of delaying the construction of the Ankron class. Simultaneously, the Republic's Intelligence Department received further information from the Interstellar Banking Association, S. Rush Clovis provided confidential documents from the association dating back more than 10 years. These documents revealed that even before the Naboo Star Wars broke out, the Damask Holding Group had initiated over 10 investment projects, established dozens of companies and consulting agencies, and directed all investments to the Gwen people. Before the Interstellar Banking Association split, Planet Scipio, as the association's treasury and the core planet for 5 key individuals, naturally held a large number of confidential documents. During the split between the Moon faction and the Human faction, both sides scrambled for control of Scipio's treasury. Thornhill and his allies were preoccupied with colluding with the 5 core members to seize the treasury's deposits, leaving many confidential documents untouched. When Hago Damask II was alive, as the former co-chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association, he had deep ties with the association. Many of these investments in the Gwen people were facilitated through the association. Therefore, it was not surprising that Rush Clovis could produce confidential information about these investments. These investment records, along with some documents from Dawn Planet at the time, indicated that Dawn Planet lacked the industrial capacity to build a Titan shipyard more than 10 years ago. At that time, Dawn Star was still a member of the Galactic Republic. Despite its remote location, such a massive construction project could not have gone unnoticed. However, the Yagodur galaxy was different. No one wanted to visit this Trisolaran galaxy, and the Gwen people were known for their low-key operations. This made it an ideal location for such a secretive and monumental project. The shipbuilding industry of the Duchy of Dawn has always been highly developed, albeit discreetly. Even if someone were to venture into the interior of the galaxy, the chaotic gravity and magnetic fields of the 3 stars would likely prevent the discovery of the Titan battleship. Thus, it is indeed the ideal location for secretly constructing such a vessel. After a thorough investigation, the Rep. Ublik's Intelligence Ministry informed the Supreme Strategic Command of their conclusion. The dock for the Angalong-class Titan battleship is most likely on the planet Yagodur. However, they also cautioned that this information could be a trap set by the Duchy of Dawn. During the subsequent discussions, 2 perspectives emerged within the Supreme Strategic Command. The first argued against attacking Yagodur, suggesting that since the attack was merely a feint, it would be better to focus on the planet Christophsis. They believed that the feint attack fleet should not engage with a formidable target like Yagodur, as it was unlikely to succeed. The second perspective disagreed, asserting that treating the fleet as a mere feint was a mistake. They argued that attacking Christophsis would not significantly impact the Duchy of Dawn, as losing that planet would not cause them much distress. Instead, they proposed targeting the Yagodur and Eliadu galaxies, as these locations would pose a real threat to the Duchy of Dawn, forcing them to divide their forces and preventing them from fully committing to the model sector. Despite the previous strategic deception drawing attention to the Yagodur galaxy, the second perspective maintained that the Republic's superior military strength would compel the Duchy of Dawn to fight on two fronts. They believed that revealing their intentions would not allow the Duchy to conjure additional warships. After a day of heated debates, Speaker Schiff Palpatine made the final decision. Reinforcements would be sent to the 20th Army of the Republic, and a second front would be opened in the Yagodur galaxy. The gears of war began to turn rapidly. On July 12, 20 BBY, near the planet Tatooine, Mira Han, the leader of the giant pirate fleet, led her forces to intercept a Galactic Republic transport fleet. This fleet was carrying over 4,000 spotty clone soldiers and a significant amount of heavy equipment, including ATE tactical assault walkers, AV-7 self-propelled artillery, and even a SPAT self-propelled artillery unit. The spotty clone soldiers were unsuitable for the slave market due to their mental instability and rapid aging, so Mira Han sent them to the Kosher satellite for mining. However, the heavy equipment caught the attention of the Duchy of Dawn's Military Intelligence Department. Thank you to my wife for the generous support. Well, this is my investment and marketing of this book. If it fails, I will face the consequences. Chapter 1608, Gears of War, Part 2. Among the limited military equipment of the Galactic Republic, the high-quality and affordable AV-7 self-propelled artillery is ubiquitous. However, heavy combat units like the ATE Tactical Assault Walker are typically concentrated on frontline planets poised for attack and are rarely transported elsewhere. The SPHAT heavy self-propelled artillery is even more scarce. This powerful weapon, comparable in strength to a battleship and over 100 meters long, is a land giant that always accompanies a large-scale clone army. Despite the war raging for over 2 years, clone soldiers are not particularly common on the battlefield. The Camino clones, known for their elite quality, generally appear only in offensive operations and rarely undertake defensive tasks. At their peak, the number of Camino clone soldiers did not exceed 10 million, a figure too small for the entire galaxy. Consequently, most soldiers on the battlefield are ordinary troops. During the early days of the war, when the Confederacy of Independent Systems was most aggressive, it was often the ordinary defense forces of various planets that faced the onslaught of B-1 battle droids. The appearance of a clone army often signals the direct involvement of the Supreme Strategic Command of the Galactic Republic. However, the transport fleet looted by Mira Han suggests something different. The presence of ATE and SPHAT indicates a nearby large-scale clone army. If a human army is involved, it likely means preparations for an attack, though not on Tatooine, but probably on the planet Christophsis. Yet this transport fleet is departing from that direction, suggesting an evacuation before the battle has even begun. The Military Intelligence Department of the Dawn Principality, led by Mrs. M, was perplexed. They dispatched numerous reconnaissance planes to Christophsis to gather more information. On July 13th, in an uninhabited galaxy near Yagodur, a patrol formation from the Principality of Dawn encountered a formation of Galactic Republic reconnaissance aircraft. 2 of these reconnaissance planes were shot down by the Memang-class light frigate, and the wreckage was sent back to Yagodur for analysis. The analysis revealed that these reconnaissance planes were detecting hyperspace fluctuations and attempting to intercept hyperspace communication signals. Later that afternoon, reconnaissance planes sent to Christophsis and nearby hyperspace outposts detected significant hyperspace navigation fluctuations. These were identified as the movements of numerous warships entering hyperspace, indicating a large-scale departure from the area. The Military Intelligence Department of the Duchy of Dawn analyzed recent activities in the Yagodur galaxy and concluded that the Galactic Republic had shifted their attack focus from Christophsis to Yagodur. This revelation alarmed Mrs. M, as it indicated a major misjudgment. They had previously believed the Republic's next target was either the 20th Army in Yagodur or the 17th Army in the Eliadu galaxy. However, it became clear that the Galactic Republic had quietly amassed a formidable force around Christophsis. If General Ling's plan, the initial plan had failed, and he had taken the initiative to reveal the location of the Ankron-class Titan battleship dock. This meant that when the Galactic Republic began their assault on the planet Christophsis, they would be caught off guard. Fortunately, the Galactic Republic had now made their intentions clear. They had ceased their cover-up operations and had directly relocated their forces away from the vicinity of Christophsis. It was almost certain that these forces had been reassigned to the 20th Army to prepare for an attack on the Yagodur galaxy, aiming to destroy the Titan shipyard in the Duchy of Dawn. This shift in strategy was confirmed when the outpost on Christophsis detected a significant number of hyperspace fluctuations. This indicated that the Galactic Republic had likely discovered a secret hyperspace route unknown to the public. In response, Mrs. M continued to dispatch additional reconnaissance planes to investigate and uncover these clandestine pathways. On July 14th, the Supreme Military Command of the Duchy of Dawn convened a meeting to decide who would lead the battle in the Yagodur galaxy. Qijian and others believed that Ling Liang was the ideal candidate. After all, she had devised the plan to divert the Galactic Republic's attention to the Yagodur galaxy through the Titan dockyard. Her impressive performance in the Eliadu galaxy had demonstrated her potential as a top military commander. However, Tang Xiao rejected this proposal. He argued that Ling Liang was indispensable to the Eliadu galaxy. Having commanded the Titan battleship Xuanwu for an extended period, she was intimately familiar with its capabilities and could effectively formulate combat strategies based on this knowledge. Tang Xiao also emphasized the possibility of the Galactic Republic launching simultaneous attacks on multiple fronts. If they became desperate and redeployed warships from other fronts to attack the Eliadu galaxy, Ling Liang's presence there would be crucial. Therefore, the Titan battleship Xuanwu and Ling Liang had to remain in the Eliadu galaxy to ensure the safe deployment of fleets to reinforce the model sector. This decision left the question of who would command the defense of the Yagodur galaxy unresolved. Previously, Major General Lin Nanyi had been in charge of the Yagodur galaxy. He was a young general highly regarded by Severance Tan and had furthered his studies as Ling Liang's adjutant. He represented the new generation of generals emerging in the Principality of Liming. However, Lin Nanyi was still too inexperienced to handle such a large-scale battle. General Severance Tan had now joined the Alliance of Neutrals and accepted a rank within the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, effectively operating independently for the time being. Although she excelled in offensive tactics, her defensive capabilities were unmatched. Additionally, Admiral Trench, currently serving in the Confederacy of Independent Galaxies, played a crucial role. In the original storyline, Admiral Trench was one of the few renowned generals among the Confederacy's ranks. After Tang Xiao recruited Trench, he sent him to the Confederacy of Independent Systems, hoping that Count Dooku would not be defeated too quickly. Now, Tang Xiao needed to find someone capable enough to command the Yagodur Galaxy campaign. Chapter 1609, Yagodur's Fuse. There has never been a good war, nor a bad peace. The Rise of the Fourth Reich by Zhao Shang. Imperial Calendar 378. Tang Xiao stood in the middle of his office, facing a holographic projection. The image displayed a tall, robust man in a dignified military uniform, with a bushy beard and bright eyes, appearing to be around 60 years old. This was Moff Volgograd Kennedy of the model sector. "What? Finally made up your mind to let me retire?" Kennedy said coldly, without any formal greeting. Tang Xiao's lips curled into a slight smile. The Model Star District was once a very remote area in the Milky Way, with a backward economy, poor industry, and a sparse population. The only thing it had in abundance was resources. Very rich resources. But to be honest, there are many galaxies in the Milky Way that are rich in resources. Among those interstellar mines opened in uninhabited galaxies, which one isn't a planet-level mining effort? Volgograd Kennedy remained silent, his gaze fixed coldly on Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao continued, "In the past, the only way to enter and exit the model star area was through the Anji Galaxy, then to the Syria Galaxy, and from there to the main channel to reach other parts of the Milky Way. Such a closed galaxy now boasts a developed industry, a sufficient population, and a rich economy. In fact, if you cut off the external hyperspace channel, it could become a paradise. Given the isolated and remote traffic in the model star area, It doesn't seem difficult to achieve. Volgograd Kennedy, familiar with the culture of Dawn Star, understood the implication of a paradise. He snorted coldly. I gave the people of the model star area a home, and I strive to make their lives better. As the frontier of the Principality of Dawn, we are exerting our strength. The model sector has done everything we can. With your ingenuity, you should know why we are having this conversation today. You should also know that this is the first time we have spoken in the past 6 months, Tang Xiao said. I have a clear conscience, Kennedy replied in a deep voice. The Ministry of Intelligence and the Ministry of Internal Affairs don't trust you, nor do they trust the model sector, Tang Xiao said. And you should know the reason. Volgograd Kennedy retorted. Is it true that between our Duchy of Dawn and the Galactic Republic, we can only live forever? A mocking smile appeared on Tang Xiao's face, but he remained silent. I said this 10 years ago, Kennedy added. The smile on Tang Xiao's face gradually disappeared. You incited everyone with the frenzy of war and expansion, covering up the fact that this war has nothing to do with us, Kennedy said. We don't need to be hostile to the Galactic Republic because we are part of the Republic. Follow the rules of the Republic. Develop step by step. When the war broke out, the 19th Army and the 18th Army served as our barriers. With the power of separatism, we had no ability to touch our territory. Then, with our industrial capabilities, we could gradually expand our influence. Within 50 years, Dawn Planet would become a prosperous place. Tang Xiao sneered. As for me, it only took 10 years. No, you used 10 years, and you did it better, Kennedy shook his head. But this is another concept you confuse, because no one asked you to do all this in 10 years, except for yourself, and we have no pressure to survive, except for yourself. You told us that Dawn Star would become a battlefield, but does the war you saw really have anything to do with us? It really has a lot to do with us. Tang Xiao's smile became inexplicably sinister. It was you who chose war, Kennedy said coldly. There are actually not a few people who know this, but you are the one who. The conversation was abruptly cut off, leaving an air of tension and unresolved conflict hanging in the room. Tang Xiao's voice was cold as he spoke. Do you want an answer? Then let me tell you. The opportunity is in my hands, and I will not leave it to the next generation. He looked at Kennedy's holographic projection and continued slowly. Now, can I trust you to manage the model sector? For your ambition? Kennedy retorted. That's right, for my ambition, Tang Xiao admitted without hesitation. If you refuse, you may die honorably, but it won't matter. The administration of the mortal sector will be purged, and authority will be reorganized under those loyal to me. The Galactic Republic may indeed attack the model sector, and the flames of war will spread everywhere. Kennedy sighed. The flames of war ignited by you can no longer be extinguished. Tang Xiao remained silent, waiting for his reply. After a long pause, Kennedy said, If this is the case, the disaster suffered by the Mordell sector will only worsen. Foreign officials will not be trusted, and the battle will become a catastrophe. Only I can hold this place. Let Matt Horner go. Tang Xiao still didn't speak, his expression remaining grim. Kennedy continued slowly. He Yuan will be dismissed from all duties and will return home to prepare for pregnancy. I accept the surveillance of her by the agents of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Jin Chen is an important military commander and cannot be replaced rashly, but I want your guarantee that if he makes any changes, I will be the first to shoot him. The model sector, loyal to the Duchy of Dawn, will not change. Oh, if this is the case, your status in the hearts of those people will plummet, Tang Xiao said, feigning regret. Stop being hypocritical, Kennedy said coldly. You've always known my position, but you've never stopped MINIA. Who do you take me for? It's not you I don't trust, but others in the Mordell Star area, Tang Xiao replied. This time it's just the beginning. Your real test is far from over. The development of the Duchy of Dawn is inseparable from the Model Star area, and as the rear of the Principality of Dawn, the Model Star area will only develop better and stronger due to its unique geographical location. At that time, how will you handle yourself? You should know that the problem here can only be left to you to solve, because if it is left to me. He raised his hand and waved it lightly, and Kennedy felt a sharp pain in his neck. The mortal sector will be bleeding like a river. An hour later, a direct order from the Grand Duke's mansion of the Duchy of Dawn was issued. Admiral Matt Horner was to go to the Yagodur Galaxy to preside over the local defense. Governor Volgograd Kennedy would continue to lead all military affairs in the model sector, and the upcoming Battle of the Model Sector would be commanded by Kennedy. In the next few hours, dozens of senior officials prone to independence in the model star area were dismissed one after another. Simultaneously, the Ministry of Internal Affairs sent an investigation team to the star area to scrutinize the administrative agencies. 20 BBY, July 16. The frontline outpost reported that a small formation of the Republic had appeared in the uninhabited galaxy near the Yagodur Galaxy. These small combat formations began to clear the hyperspace blockers deployed by the Principality of Dawn in these galaxies and cleared the shipping lanes. July 17. The reconnaissance plane of the Principality of Dawn reported the discovery of a space station built by the Galactic Republic in an uninhabited galaxy only 3.5 light-years away from the Yagodur Galaxy. According to the investigation, this space station was of modular design, with each part equipped with a hyperspace engine. It flew over like a spaceship and then started to assemble. This was a complete waste of money. If this standard was followed, how many such advanced bases had the Galactic Republic built near here? The events unfolding in the Yagodur Galaxy are beyond imagination. On the afternoon of July 18th, reinforcements from the Eliadu Galaxy arrived. Now, only the Titan battleship Swanwu and 10 other capital ships remain in the Eliadu Galaxy, as all other deployable battleships have been sent out. On July 18th, Granites dispatched their defense fleet from their home planet, Golden Rock, to the Yagodur Galaxy. Simultaneously, a small combat formation from the Republic clashed with a patrol fleet from Yagodur. Both sides suffered losses, with the Republic losing an additional Carrack-class light cruiser. On July 19th, Matt Horner sent a squadron to attack the Republic space station in a previously discovered unmanned galaxy. Upon arrival, they found 10 Jaeger-class battlecruisers already stationed there. The squadron returned without success after the battle. On July 20th at 9 p.m. GST, contact was lost with the UY-19 outpost on the outskirts of the Yagodur system. By 9:28, contact with the TR-26 outpost was also lost. At 9:40, the PB-112 outpost sounded an alarm before losing contact. At 10:30, Patrol Formation Number 56 sent an alarm, claiming to have encountered the Republic fleet, and then lost contact. By 10:51, contact with outpost TR-49 was lost. At 10:55, Admiral Matt Horner left the planet Yagodur and moved to Interstellar Base A on the planet's outskirts, using it as his command center. At 11:29, a Galactic Republic Arcatens-class light cruiser emerged from hyperspace within the Yagodur Galaxy. By 11:48, the cruiser was destroyed by missiles, but not before releasing a large number of hyperspace beacons. On July 21st, at 00:32 a.m. GST, 30 warships exited hyperspace and entered the Yagodur Galaxy near the previously released beacon. All 30 warships were Jaeger-class battlecruisers. The second battle of the Yagodur Galaxy had officially begun. The Jaeger-class battlecruisers launched long-range bombardments towards the planet Yagodur, ignoring the 2 Argonev-class interstellar bases and various other spaceports and stations. Their bombardments were blocked by the planetary shield, causing no damage, but setting a clear tone for the battle. Do everything you can. The Jaeger-class battlecruisers did not advance further. Instead, they formed a defensive formation and passively defended against the long-range attacks from the Duchy of Dawn's fleet. The two sides were separated by a distance of about 10 light minutes, the maximum engagement distance for the Jaeger-class battlecruisers. This indicated that the Republic fleet had chosen the current battlefield situation. At 1:14, the second batch of the Republic fleet arrived, including 10 Knight-class star destroyers and 5 large umbrella battleships, known as shield ships. Originally used to protect engineering ships in extreme environments, these shield ships were now repurposed for the battlefield by the Galactic Republic. Upon arrival, the shield ships set up their shields, creating a small safe zone with a range of about 100 kilometers. The 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers began to press forward, relying on their super firepower, which was 8 times that of the Jaeger class, to bombard the fleet of the Principality of Dawn from a long distance. However, at such a distance, the firepower from both sides was not very accurate. Even missile launches were ineffective due to the joint air defense system composed of dozens of warships. At 1:41, a very strong signal appeared in the hyperspace fluctuations. Immediately afterward, the massive 8,000-meter-long body of a Commander 2-class dreadnought emerged. In the vast expanse of space, more than 100 small and medium-sized warships emerged from hyperspace. These included DP-20 anti-aircraft gunboats. Despite being called gunboats, they are actually frigates, each 120 meters long, Artanis-class light cruisers, Carrack-class light cruisers, CR-70 frigates, and over 20 various logistics and supply ships. The logistics fleet comprised maintenance ships, medical ships, and supply ships, all of which began to enter the protective range of shield ships to provide essential and rapid maintenance for their fleet. Considering the advanced bases established in the surrounding uninhabited galaxies, it was clear that the Republic fleet was preparing for a protracted war in this region. On the bridge of the Commander 2-class Dreadnought, a well-dressed general in a pristine military uniform stood at the center. His hair was neatly combed back, and though he appeared to be in his early 40s, his rank was already that of an admiral. This was Gideon Tarkin, Admiral of the Galactic Republic. His rapid ascent to such a high rank at a relatively young age was largely due to his influential elder brother, Wilhuff Tarkin, the current governor of the Fourth Army of the Republic. For the attack on the Yago-Dur galaxy, Gideon Tarkin had been transferred to the 20th Army, becoming the highest military commander under Governor Octavian Grant. He was tasked with fully commanding the Yago-Dur galaxy campaign. This appointment was also a result of internal power compromises within the Republic's military. The two prominent figures under Speaker Sheev Palpatine, Cassio Taggi, supported by Dun Wessex, and Wilhuff Tarkin's younger brother, Gideon Tarkin, were both leading attacks in different directions. Attachments 1 and 2 of the Easter egg chapter, Shield Ship. Chapter 1610, Protracted War 20B, July 21st, 2 a.m. GST. Dozens of logistics spaceships arrived in the Yago-Dur galaxy. Under the protection of 5 shield ships, they connected with the logistics spaceships that had arrived earlier, jointly forming a logistics base with functions including spaceship maintenance, field hospitals, and ammunition processing. During this process, the main fleet of the 20th Army of the Galactic Republic maintained a composition of 30 Jaeger-class battlecruisers, 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers, 1 Commander 2-class Dreadnought, and 70 small and medium-sized warships. These battleships kept firing at the defenders of the Yago-Dur galaxy from a distance of 10 light minutes, but their efforts had little effect. Even when targeting the planet Yago-Dur, the powerful planetary shield rendered their firepower ineffective. Suddenly, dozens of bright beams lit up, striking the shield ship's expanded shield. Almost instantly, the powerful shields deployed by the 5 shield ships disintegrated. After these powerful beams extinguished, a thin red beam and a spiral beam remained entangled in the trajectory. General, it's the opponent's particle light spear. On the bridge of the Commander 2 Dreadnought, the adjutant reported to Gideon Tarkin, "The number is 20. The opponent has at least 20 disaster-class battlecruisers." Gideon Tarkin was unfazed by such a force. He snorted coldly and said, "Separatists still have a lot of resources. 20 disaster-class ships. That's fine. This will ease the pressure on our other fronts." Unlike his elder brother, Gideon Tarkin was a very traditional soldier, focusing more on military matters than politics. However, this focus had hindered his career advancement compared to his brother. Despite his previous successes in war, he now relied on his brother's connections to become an admiral of the Republic, commanding a powerful fleet. He then ordered, "Have the shield ships replace the capacitors immediately and start moving. Don't let the opponent's particle light spears hit us too easily." "Yes, sir. The replaced capacitors should be sent towards the planet with the mass launcher. Waste utilization is also pretty good," Gideon continued. There must be separatist hyperspace probes in the airspace near us to help them aim their particle lances. Send fighter jets to clean them up. Deploy our own hyperspace detectors at the same time. Yes, sir? Gideon Tarkin had anticipated this situation before departure. The disaster-class battlecruiser equipped with particle light spears had long been listed as one of the most dangerous warships by the Galactic Republic Navy. The supply ships accompanying the shield ships had already prepared a large number of shield capacitors for replacement. The umbrella structure of the shield ship, where the shield capacitor is installed, had several exposed loading and unloading ports, making the replacement process quick. The overloaded shield capacitors that were replaced were high-temperature objects, reaching temperatures of tens of thousands of degrees. As Gideon Tarkin suggested, these high-temperature waste capacitors were loaded into the mass launcher and launched towards the Yago-Dur galaxy. In the vacuum of space, there was no way to dissipate heat, so these shield capacitors maintained their super high temperature, effectively becoming high-temperature incendiary bombs. At the same time, the 5 shield ships began to move, and the logistics spacecraft, under their protection, moved along with them. The movement speed of the fleet was not fast, but it was constant, ensuring they did not become easy targets for the particle light spears. From the Hunter-class battlecruisers, more than 2,000 fighter jets took off, each equipped with detection scanners to conduct detailed scans of the surrounding airspace. Their mission was to locate and destroy any hyperspace probes that the Separatists might have deployed nearby. As previously mentioned, the particle light spear is an ultra-long-distance, light-speed weapon. To aim accurately, it relies on hyperspace detectors for real-time target feedback, making it challenging to use effectively. For instance, in the current battlefield, it takes the particle light spear 10 minutes to reach its target. Using conventional detection methods, even with light-speed sensors, it would take 10 minutes to scan the target's information and send it back. Firing the particle light spear again would take another 10 minutes, totaling 20 minutes. In that time, the opponent could easily avoid the attack. Therefore, by eliminating the hyperspace detectors deployed by the Separatists, the effectiveness of the particle light spear can be significantly reduced. This strategy was developed by the military experts of the Supreme Strategic Command of the Galactic Republic. Unlike the Ankron-class Titan battleship, which is composed of multiple systems, the particle light spear relies on a single system, making it more vulnerable to targeted countermeasures. In contrast, the Supreme Strategic Command has been debating for months on how to combat the Titan battleship Xuanwu without reaching a consensus. Following Gideon Tarkin's instructions, the Republic's 20th Army Fleet maintained a distance of 10 light minutes from the Yago-Dur galaxy, continuously firing at it and disposing of replaced waste capacitors there. This tactic was intended to be a nuisance while keeping a safe distance and avoiding direct confrontation. Tarkin also established a simple, mobile logistics base that could relocate as needed and clear out surrounding hyperspace detectors to reduce the hit rate of the particle light spear. The primary function of this logistics base was to serve as a material transfer station. He set up 2 such stations in the uninhabited galaxies around Yago-Dur. The base in the uninhabited galaxy acted as a secondary transit point, sorting and forwarding large quantities of materials from the rear to the frontline primary transit station. This series of material transfers ensured a steady supply of logistics materials. After studying the results of Octavian Grant's previous attack on the Yago-Dur galaxy, Gideon Tarkin devised a combat policy based on careful consideration, a protracted war. Instead of strategizing from the rear on how to deploy a fleet in the complex gravitational and electromagnetic fields of the three-body galaxy, Tarkin decided to establish a firm foothold and gradually develop a plan of attack. Chapter 1611, Matt Horner's Dilemma. Matt Horner stood in the command headquarters of the Argonev-class interstellar base, his expression solemn as he studied the holographic galaxy map before him. The map displayed the Republic's fleet maintaining a tight formation, constantly maneuvering to reduce the hit rate of particle light spears while bombarding the Yago-Dur galaxy with various means. Despite the Republic fleet's aggressive tactics, their strength was not overwhelming. The fleet consisted of 30 Jaeger-class ships, 10 Knight-class ships, 70 small and medium-sized warships, and a Commander 2-class dreadnought. In comparison, the defense fleet of the Yago-Dur Galaxy under Horner's command was significantly more formidable. The Yago-Dur defense fleet included 2 Argonev-class interstellar bases, 10 Soa-class aircraft carriers, 40 Cole-class battlecruisers, 20 Disaster-class battlecruisers, 17 Higra-class battlecruisers, 15 Martha-class missile heavy cruisers, 5 Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruisers, 5 Dunov-class battlecruisers, and 1 Archon-class aircraft carrier. Additionally, there were over 400 small and medium-sized warships, primarily frigates, along with 8 Generosity-class communication frigates, 3 Disobedient-class destroyers, and 2 Providence-class destroyers. These battleships formed the defensive fleet of the Grand People. To reinforce the Yago-Dur Galaxy, they had deployed their own defensive fleet, many of which were ordered during the Confederation of Independent Galaxy era. After the Golden Rock planet was assigned to the Dawn Star War Zone, the Fourth Civilization's fleet was deployed uniformly, but the Golden Rock planet retained its former defense fleet. For the Grand People, the Yago-Dur Galaxy's fall would mean the next target of the Galactic Republic would be the Golden Rock planet, their home. Thus, they were determined to protect Yago-Dur at all costs. Admiral Matt Horner now commanded this vast fleet, with over 110 kilometer-class battleships alone. Despite having 3 times the military strength of the Galactic Republic, he felt immense pressure. He knew the 20th Army of the Galactic Republic had more warships lurking in nearby unmanned galaxies, ready to reinforce at a moment's notice. An active attack from his side would immediately trigger these backups. Even with his superior numbers, Horner couldn't guarantee a decisive victory. The presence of the Commander 2-class dreadnought added to his concerns. Although the Commander 2 had been proven ineffective against the Xuanwu Titan battleship, it still held a significant advantage over other warships. Horner calculated that while he could potentially destroy the Commander 2, it would likely hold out long enough for Republic reinforcements to arrive, reversing the offensive and defensive positions. Who is the commander on the other side? Have we identified them? Matt Horner asked his adjutant. The intelligence department hasn't found out yet. The Galactic Republic's attack is highly confidential, and we haven't intercepted any communication revealing the commander's identity, the adjutant replied, shaking his head. Forget it. Regardless of who it is, their strategy is directly targeting our weaknesses, Matt Horner said, his voice deep with concern. The opponent's troops are not many. I think we can take this opportunity to rush over in one fell swoop. The adjutant raised his hand in a slashing gesture. It would be great if we could kill their commander. Matt Horner shook his head and said, "This is the biggest trap. If I am not mistaken, the commander of the Galactic Republic is maintaining this moderate force while concentrating all his energy on expanding logistics supplies and accumulating more resources. When he decides to launch an attack, he will send more warships. By then, this army will have sufficient supplies and can do whatever it wants." The adjutant's expression changed. Then what should we do? We can't just sit still, can we? The commander of the other party poses a substantial threat to us, with a warship that has not yet reached the front line. Very clever, Matt Horner pondered for a while, then continued. We can only take the initiative to attack. This is the only way. We cannot allow this Republic fleet to gain a firm foothold in the Yago-Dur Galaxy. Then, I'll arrange for the fleets to prepare, the adjutant said. Wait a minute. Matt Horner raised his hand to stop him, then turned and walked towards the command center in another direction. There was an office there, and dozens of G-Wen people were constantly busy inside. Is there any result from this calculation? Matt Horner asked one of the G-Wen people who was holding a scepter and wearing a robe, which made him stand out. This person was Bahel Barnacle, the most outstanding mathematician of the G-Wen people. He was also the one who taught General Ling Liang the zero-mode probability. In the Battle of the Eliada Galaxy, his mathematics team played a key role. Now, facing the greatest threat in the history of the Yago-Dur Galaxy, Bahel Barnacle naturally brought his team of mathematicians to the command center to provide calculation support for this battle. Bahel Barnacle struck the ground with his scepter, making a crisp sound, and then said, "We have calculated the movement of the 3 stars in the Yago-Dur galaxy for the next 100 years with an 80% accuracy rate. The result of this calculation is stored in the supercomputer database of the Yago-Dur planet and can be accessed at any time. However, with an 80% probability, it cannot support the command of a battle. This is what General Ling taught me." Matt Horner nodded and said, "For the result I want, an 80% probability is indeed not enough. So we're trying to improve the accuracy by reducing the range and shortening the time. So far, I've increased the accuracy to 87% for the 3 stars in our position, and the time frame is 10 standard days. I have to plan an attack based on the operation and interference of the stars," Matt Horner said. "Now that the position data of the Galactic Republic fleet has been sent to you, I need a plan. When should we launch the attack so that the operation of the stars will have the greatest impact on this Republic fleet?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1612. G. Wenren Baharbarnak pondered for a moment before speaking. "If it's the influence of gravity, I can tell you that in 26 standard hours, there will be a period lasting 17 standard hours during which hyperspace passages will be impassable due to the proximity of a star's orbit. Only through the secret passages we control can one enter and leave the Yago-Dur galaxy." "What about the stellar storm?" Matt Horner inquired. "I don't recommend launching an attack during a stellar storm," Bahar Barnak replied. "It will affect our own warships as well. Clearly, the Galactic Republic aims to engage us in a protracted war, so we need to minimize our losses." Bahar Barnak stared at the screen in front of him. Displayed was a holographic projection of the entire Yago-Dur galaxy. The galaxy contained 3 stars moving slowly, with a massive light blue star at the center. The other 2 stars, one large and one small, moved in seemingly irregular patterns. The planet Yago-Dur, the only planet in this galaxy, had an unstable orbit and was currently positioned at the galaxy's edge, near the 3 stars. The primary reason the Yago-Dur planet has sustained life and given rise to the powerful G-Wen civilization is the relatively stable structure of this trinary star system. The central star, with its immense mass and volume, dominates the system, influencing the entire galaxy's gravitational dynamics and causing the other 2 stars to revolve around it. This complex gravitational network captures the Yago-Dur planet, pulling it into different orbits and making it appear to wander throughout the galaxy. In reality, the smaller stars are the ones moving around, while the central star's orbit remains more stable. In such an environment, the surface of Yago-Dur is barren, with a hard, crystalline crust. Beneath this crust lie vast voids where the G-Wen civilization was born. The crystalline structure blocks harmful stellar radiation, filtering it through the crust and creating a warm, pleasant environment below. The emergence of the G-Wen people was a fortunate accident. If the 3 stars in the Yago-Dur galaxy had similar masses, they wouldn't form a stable orbit, and the resulting chaos would prevent any planet from sustaining life. However, during a specific period in the past billions of years, the Yago-Dur galaxy achieved a relatively stable orbit. This orbit was at an optimal distance, creating the right temperature for life to begin. The first single-celled organisms emerged, and over time, life flourished, leading to the advanced G-Wen civilization. According to G-Wen calculations, the trinary structure of the Yago-Dur galaxy will collapse in 1 billion years. The massive central star will eventually consume the other 2 stars, causing catastrophic damage. The influx of matter will destabilize the star, leading to a collapse and a subsequent supernova explosion. This explosion will last tens of thousands of years, during which at least 1/3 of the planets in the Milky Way's core will need to keep their planetary shields active to survive the resulting gamma-ray bursts. After that, the Yago-Dur galaxy will form a massive black hole, turning this region into a forbidden zone for life. Bahar Barnak pressed a few buttons to input data, and countless lines appeared on the holographic star map. These lines were marked with different colors, highlighting the 3 stars and the planet Yago-Dur. This shows the trajectories of the stars in the Yago-Dur galaxy over the next 100 years, Bahar Barnek said, his tone somber. This also represents the countdown for our G-Wen people, and even with such a critical countdown, it's only 80% accurate. He shook his head. The exoskeletal head unique to the G-Wen people made him expressionless, but his tone was tinged with despair. Do you know why we G-Wen people agreed to General Ling's plan without hesitation, even though it turns our planet into the main battlefield? Matt Horner shook his head slowly. The incomparably complex Trisolaran galaxy in front of him, with its orbits covering almost every corner of the galaxy, illustrated the dire environment the G-Wen people faced. Among these billions of routes, if even one intersects, the entire galaxy could face catastrophe. He began to understand. In such an environment, they could face death at any moment. And not just ordinary deaths, but the demise of entire civilizations. If a person dies, they may do so without concern, knowing that someone will remember them, honor them, and live on with their spirit and ideas. However, the demise of a civilization means that everything you have will be in vain. Your descendants, your country, your environment, and even the planet you live on will cease to exist. It's total annihilation, because in the end, there's no point. The G-Wen people have always lived with this mindset, so they have nothing to fear. Bahar Barnak once again slammed the scepter in his hand on the ground. The mathematics team of the G-Wen people deleted all the data in front of them and started a new round of calculations. These individuals, even within the scope of the entire galaxy, were the most outstanding mathematicians. At this moment, they were all calculating in unison, turning themselves into parts of a massive mathematical model. Why did we join the fourth civilization? Bahar Barnak said bluntly. Many affiliated planets of the Duchy of Dawn know the term fourth civilization, but very few are willing to mention it. For the civilizations of these planets, the fourth civilization is not yet qualified. No matter how magnificent this civilization claims its past to be, what stands before them now is a very young civilization. All these civilizations have histories spanning thousands or tens of thousands of years. Deep down, they still reject the fourth civilization. Chapter 16:13, Crazy Plan. In fact, this kind of exclusion does not refer to the so-called infidelity, but a kind of disapproval. For example, it is always impossible for Egyptian civilization to identify with Britain. Although the former has been conquered by Britain for a long time, from the perspective of civilization, this is exactly the case, and it has nothing to do with strength. Therefore, if the Grands, Dags, and Semirs are civilizations, although they sincerely intend to become a part of the Principality of Dawn, it does not mean that they recognize themselves as part of the fourth civilization from the bottom of their hearts. But at this moment, the chief stellar mathematician of the G-Wen people, Bahar Barnak, is completely different. In his speech, he did not just claim to be a member of the Duchy of Dawn like other races, but directly identified with the fourth civilization. This nature is completely different. This is a deep sense of identity, which has nothing to do with strength, but an identity that comes from the soul, tradition, and culture. Matt Horner, who also noticed something wrong with Bahar Barnak's tone, frowned and said, "Because the G-Wen people and the fourth civilization have the same goal?" Bahar Barnak shook his head and said, "No, because the fourth civilization can give us G-Wen people a future." Matt Horner couldn't understand. He asked, "What kind of future is it?" "Under Tang Xiao's command, we may get an entire habitable planet, even if it is by means of robbery," Bahar Barnak said. "Do you know what a habitable planet means?" Matt Horner was thoughtful, but his face was still a little dazed. Bahar Barnak went on to say, "In this galaxy, habitable planets are the most precious resource. Among the trillions of planets in the entire Milky Way, there are no more than 100,000 habitable planets, and every habitable planet, in fact, already has intelligent creatures. The original planets with a pleasant climate but no primitive civilization have completely disappeared. According to the regulations of the Galactic Republic, as long as a primitive civilization is born on a planet, then this planet is legally owned by this civilization, and no one can usurp it." He pointed at the holographic star map and said, "This is very unfair. Even though our G-Wen people have higher technology and civilization than most planets in the Milky Way, we still can only live in the Yago-Dur galaxy. We survive in a place where the survival rate for the next 100 years can be calculated with 80% accuracy. We cannot relocate to another planet because these planets are already populated. If we were a human civilization, then we might have a chance to win sympathy from the Galactic Council and build colonies on undeveloped habitable planets. But unfortunately, we are not human beings. Matt Horner understood what he meant. What Behelbanak said was definitely not the kind of sub-ecologically habitable planets in the Kuna star cluster that were transformed through atmospheric modification, but the kind of natural habitable planets with the most suitable environment. Such things are indeed impossible to obtain, no matter how rich you are. These planets, because of their unique environment, will naturally be able to give birth to their own intelligent civilization soon. The possibility of a habitable planet where only instinctive beasts survive after billions of years is extremely slim. The Constitution of the Galactic Republic stipulates that all native races with intelligent civilizations are automatically regarded as having ownership of the planet they are on. But the Fourth Civilization does not have this law. At the beginning, we and the Fourth Civilization were just a business, a cooperation. But Behelbanak's tone seemed a little agitated. Tang Xiao handed over the planet Karl to the Vasari people. He gestured animatedly, a livable planet with a very suitable climate and a very comfortable life. From that moment on, we G-Wen people saw another future, a more promising one. Haptor, the gravitational slingshot. We G-Wen people, as long as we can get Tang Xiao, it is also possible to get a planet with a pleasant climate like Karl Planet, which is even enough to become a tourist attraction. Behelbanak declared with conviction. So, even if you willingly offer your home planet as the main battlefield, you don't have a single complaint, because only Tang Xiao can give you what you want. Everyone else, whether it's Heave Palpatine or the Galactic Republic, is impossible. Matt Horner understood. Boom. Behelbanak struck the ground with his scepter once again and said, in about a month, the planet Yago-Dur will be captured by the gravitational force of 2 stars simultaneously. Under this immense gravitational pull, the planet will form a gravitational slingshot effect and be hurled out at high speed. And this process will be very sudden. 11 years ago, Yago-Dur's orbit was relatively stable under the gravitational force of the central star. Except for the calculations of our G-Wen people, no one could foresee this change. At that time, the planet Yago-Dur will rush straight ahead along this orbit. Behelbanak drew a line on the holographic star map. Matt Horner observed the trajectory, noting that it passed very close to the current location of the main fleet of the 20th Army of the Galactic Republic. However, he knew that what appeared close on the holographic star map was, in reality, a distance of at least 1 light hour. Frowning, he continued to study the holographic star map. Behelbanak continued, if you are looking for an opportunity, this is the best one. Compared to a minor astronomical phenomenon like a stellar storm, the impact of Yago-Dur will be devastating. To cope with this gravitational slingshot, all G-Wen people will enter shelters deep underground, where orbital bombing can't reach, and buffer this terrible disaster through reinforced and buffered artificial crusts. A space battleship cannot be hit by a planet, Matt Horner said thoughtfully. This is something you need to consider, Admiral Horner. What I can tell you is that this violent astronomical phenomenon that may occur soon is just such an opportunity. After this, the planet Yago-Dur will be recaptured by the gravity of the central star and enter a stable orbit lasting for 7 years. The other 2 stars will also move to the other side of the galaxy, forming a short-lived binary star system that lasts for 1.5 years. In other words, for at least 1.5 years, the Yago-Dur galaxy will be calm, Behelbanak explained. 80% possibility? Matt Horner's tone was heavy with concern. 87%, Behelbanak corrected. If there is a calculation error, then our planet will be swallowed by one of the stars, and the G-Wen people will be wiped out. End of this chapter. Chapter 1614, Yago-Dur Cannon Battle. War is scary, but we should learn to love it. The Record of Generals and Stars of the Fourth Empire, Kijan Chapter, Chapter 28, Section 7. 20 BBY, GST, July 21, 1934 p.m. The Duchy of Dawn's fleet stationed in the Yago-Dur galaxy launched an aggressive attack under the command of Admiral Matt Horner. He could no longer afford to wait. If the Republic fleet continued to stabilize their position, they would further consolidate their logistics and potentially establish a larger frontline supply base. This would allow them to mobilize an even larger fleet, making the defense of the Yago-Dur galaxy impossible. The Yago-Dur galaxy lacked the nearly unlimited reinforcements and logistical supplies that the Galactic Republic enjoyed. Additionally, most of the Duchy of Dawn's military forces were currently deployed towards the model sector, leaving no reinforcements available for Yago-Dur. When Admiral Matt Horner took over the defense, Tang Xiao almost deprived him of the newly acquired 3,175-meter-long Archon-class aircraft carrier, insisting it remain in the model sector. Fortunately, Horner argued convincingly, explaining to Tang Xiao that the Yago-Dur galaxy's harsh environment necessitated a powerful flagship to ensure command efficiency. Without it, he risked being quickly neutralized by the Galactic Republic. Severance Tan, known for her beheading tactics, would certainly understand the importance of such a flagship. Ultimately, Horner managed to bring the Consul-class aircraft carrier to Yago-Dur. His strategy was clear: deliver a heavy blow to the Galactic Republic while their foothold was still unstable, thereby maintaining an advantage in the ensuing battles. The Republic fleet's current commander had adopted a different tactic. Previously, Republic fleet commanders relied on their overwhelming forces to achieve decisive victories quickly. While effective against the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, this approach had hidden dangers. Deploying all main forces at once increased logistical pressure. If the battle wasn't resolved swiftly, the large force could become a liability. However, the fleet of Dawnstar was not something the Galactic Republic could defeat quickly. This time, Admiral Gideon Tarkin of the Galactic Republic had made thorough preparations. Learning from past mistakes, he adopted a steady and cautious approach. He understood that the Duchy of Dawn, despite its advanced battleship technology, was reluctant to suffer significant damage. Tarkin used a small number of troops to cover the deployment of the logistics base, with his flagship, the Commander II-class Dreadnought, as the linchpin. As long as this massive ship existed, the Duchy of Dawn's fleet could not easily defeat the Republic fleet. This was more a psychological issue than a comparison of the fleet's strengths. Tarkin's strategy effectively targeted Matt Horner's weakness. But now, Matt Horner had no choice but to lead his fleet into an active attack. 20 disaster-class battlecruisers advanced at full speed, their particle spears ready. The Cole-class battlecruisers took the lead, with the Martha-class heavy missile cruisers slightly behind. At the core of the formation was the Dunov-class battlecruiser, continuously providing shield functions and engine-boosting support. The Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruiser also played a crucial role in the formation. The battle was about to begin, and the fate of the Yago-Dur galaxy hung in the balance. Admiral Matt Horner cruised around the battlefield, waiting for the perfect opportunity to disrupt the engine output of the Republic battleship. The distance between the two fleets was closing rapidly. 8 light minutes, 7 light minutes, 5 light minutes. When the gap narrowed to less than 3 light minutes, Admiral Horner gave the command for the entire fleet to open fire. Fighter formations launched into action as the particle light spears of the disaster-class battlecruiser and the supermatter electromagnetic guns of the Cole-class battlecruiser unleashed their devastating firepower. Their target, the shield ship under the protection of the Republic fleet. The Galactic Republic fleet aimed to use the shield ships to establish a frontline supply base, but Horner's objective was to obliterate this base entirely. The logistics supply ship, shielded by the shield ship, attempted to evade, but at a distance of 3 light minutes, evasion was nearly impossible. In this initial volley, at least 8 particle light spears and 5 supermatter electromagnetic guns struck the wide area shield, causing violent ripples in the energy barrier. At this moment, the Commander II-class Dreadnought completed its turn, and the super-heavy turbolaser cannon mounted at the front of the battleship fired. The XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser guns arranged around the Dreadnought also unleashed their fury. The Knight-class Star Destroyer and the Hunter-class Star Destroyer joined the bombardment, adding to the onslaught. The XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser gun, a staple of the Galactic Republic's fleet, had become the standard for measuring a fleet's firepower, as most Republic warships were equipped with this dual-mounted turret. In Gideon Tarkin's fleet, over 1,000 XX-9 heavy turbolaser guns fired in unison. At a distance of 3 light minutes, the hit rate of sub-light speed weapons was low, but both sides were now firing relentlessly, not wasting even a 1% chance of hitting their targets. Hundreds of warships from both sides engaged in a fierce exchange of fire, with no intention of dodging. Fire! Fire freely! Don't give the Separatists any chance! Gideon Tarkin commanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Commander 2 class dreadnought. The portholes of the battleship were continuously illuminated by the flashes of turbolaser cannon fire. Below the bridge, a row of XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser cannons poured out dense beams of energy. The Commander 2 class dreadnought, a long battleship with main gun positions arranged around the hull, lit up with a circle of light beams when firing, creating a spectacular display. Note, there is no official description of the Commander class's shape, but some fan creations depict it as a triangular structure similar to the Empire-class Star Destroyer. I believe this is inaccurate, as the Commander class was designed several hundred years ago, and the shipyards of that era did not use the triangular wedge shape as the primary design for their warships. Drawing inspiration from the cylindrical Invincible-class battlecruisers of the same period, I have designed the Commander class in this book as a long strip. As the Republic warships opened fire, enemy firepower continued to pour in. The fleet of the Principality of Dawn unleashed even more terrifying firepower, especially with their particle light spears. These weapons were unmistakable, with their thick, bright beams and the red spiral afterimages they left behind. On the battlefield, they became the absolute protagonists. Gideon Tarkin could even see the impact of several particle light spears with the naked eye, one of which struck a Knight-class Star Destroyer. Almost simultaneously, a communication came in from the Knight-class Star Destroyer. A request to retreat came through the communication channel. Notify the rear that the Separatists have launched an active attack and immediately send reinforcements, Gideon Tarkin commanded. Yes, sir. The adjutant stood at attention, saluted, and promptly made the necessary arrangements. Moments later, the messenger returned with a reply. Governor Octavian Grant has personally arrived at the rear base and has dispatched the first batch of reinforcements, 5 Knight-class Star Destroyers and 20 Architect-class light cruisers. Estimated arrival time is 30 minutes. General, the shield of our Knight-class Star Destroyer Vatan has been penetrated, and it is retreating, another report came in. The shield ship is returning. The shield is about to collapse. More battle reports were summarized and urgently dead the fleet commander's decisions. Additional battlefield information was already being transmitted through data channels. In the command center, a staff team and a command team were in place to handle these issues, allowing the fleet commander to focus on the most critical battle reports. Ignore these losses. All warships, keep firing. Do not stop. Halt the Separatist fleet. Gideon Tarkin ordered loudly. Deploy the fighter formation. Pay attention to the enemy's Martha-class missile-heavy cruiser. Scatter the fighters into combat formation and attack from different directions. Yes, sir. The bows of the Jaeger-class battlecruisers unfolded, revealing wide hangar platforms. The Galactic Republic's V-19 Riptide Light Fighter Formation and V-Wing Holy Light Fighter Formation, already prepared, began to accelerate on the electromagnetic accelerators of the takeoff runways. They gained enough speed instantly and rushed into the battlefield, avoiding being shot down by enemy anti-aircraft fire during slow takeoff. Simultaneously, the first batch of fighters from the Duchy of Dawn's fleet arrived on the battlefield. These were Vulture robot fighters, numbering around 1,000. They struggled under the dense anti-aircraft fire of the Republic fleet and blindly fired proton torpedoes with little effect. In the Republic fleet, the full-time air defense DP-20 gunboat was a fighter jet killer, and the Knight-class Star Destroyer's 60 XX-9 heavy turbolaser cannons could also be used for air defense. The fire control radar of the Knight class was far more advanced than that of the Hunter class, making it effective against aircraft. This anti-aircraft firepower easily handled the outdated Vulture robot fighters. However, when the Republic's V-Wing fighter formation joined the battle, the situation became even more destructive. V-Wing fighters were becoming a larger proportion of the Republic's carrier-based aircraft, giving them a significant advantage over the main separatist models, including Ghost fighters. Only the triple robot fighters and Viking fighters could compete with them. War is always the most efficient driver of technological advancement. Who would have thought that the V-19 Torrent light fighter, which was just equipped before the war, and the enduring classic Wraith fighter would already be facing replacement? As the V-Wing fighter formation easily shot down the Vulture robot fighters, the radar operator shouted, "General, the Separatist fleet is launching a second batch of fighters. The number, 5,000! 5,000! Are you kidding? Where are they getting so many fighters?" Gideon Tarkin was taken aback. "Are they all Vulture robot fighters?" he asked. "Currently, we have no optical images. We only know that these fighters are small in size," the radar operator replied. The enemy fighters were small in size but incredibly fast, more than 3 times faster than the Vulture robot fighters. Triple robot fighters? No, the Separatists don't have that many triple fighters. The Technology Alliance has been half-hearted, and the output of triple fighters is already very low, the adjutant exclaimed. "We're launching the second batch of fighter jets too. Be careful," Gideon Tarkin ordered. "Yes, sir. The second batch of fighter jets will take off immediately." "General, Separatist fighter jets are still taking off. The quantity, the radar operator shouted in alarm. "How many?" Gideon Tarkin sensed something was wrong and asked in a deep voice. "I don't know. Too many. The radar signals are completely blurred, but conservatively estimated, the number has exceeded 20,000. The radar operator stared at the data displayed on the screen in disbelief. 20,000 fighter jets. Are you sure there's no problem with the radar? The adjutant, hearing this, walked over to the radar department to check before Gideon Tarkin could respond. The images and data he saw made his face pale. Could it be because of the huge aircraft carrier of the Separatists? Gideon Tarkin's eyes fell on a TTL ship with a flat shape and 2 pointed bows in the holographic projection. At 3,175 meters in length, it was a formidable presence even in the Navy of the Galactic Republic. Only the Commander class and Prosecutor class were larger, and those were cumbersome warships built under the Rusin Treaty, meant more for intimidation than actual combat. But given the shipbuilding technology demonstrated by Dawn Star, this massive aircraft carrier with a length of 3,175 meters couldn't just be for show. "General, the opponent's fighter group is approaching. Our sensors have obtained more detailed data. The fighter jets launched by the opponent are all drones, and there are mainly 3 types. The largest number of them is less than 2 meters long. Additionally, there are more than 2,000 drones that are relatively larger models, but they are still small," the radar operator reported. Gideon Tarkin snorted coldly. "Don't worry. Such small-sized drones are useless on the space battlefield. The weapon systems they can carry can't even scratch us. Inform the fighter formation to prepare for battle." Chapter 1615, Deadly Swarm. The fleets of both sides advanced rapidly, and their fighters moved even faster. When the distance between the battleships of the 2 sides was just 1 light minute, countless fighter jets had already engaged in fierce combat. At this moment, the fighter pilots of the Republic finally saw their enemy clearly. It was a cloud that covered the sky, a swarm of countless small drones, densely packed with almost no gaps. When anti-aircraft artillery fire passed through, these drones could dodge immediately, creating the illusion of a hole suddenly appearing in the dark cloud along the direction of the artillery fire. Seeing such a scene, commanders at all levels of the Republic, including Gideon Tarkin, were left speechless. This kind of maneuver demonstrated the excellent flight control system of these drones. The reason these drones could avoid anti-aircraft fire was that their mothership provided them with the turret steering data of the Republic fleet. This was a massive undertaking, as there were thousands of turrets in the entire Republic fleet, all constantly rotating, with the battleships also in motion. To avoid being shot, It was necessary to determine which turret's steering angle posed a threat to a drone, and then communicate this to the drones along the turret's shooting angle, prompting them to dodge. This evasion was not just a simple maneuver. With such a large number of drones and a dense anti-aircraft fire barrage, a wrong move would result in being blown to pieces. Previously, almost all drones used artificial intelligence to handle this problem independently, essentially turning the drone into a robot, which is the origin of the Vulture robot fighter. However, due to the limited carrying capacity of fighter jets, the artificial intelligence on board often couldn't handle these problems, resulting in rigid performance on the battlefield. In contrast, the Galactic Republic adopted the pilot plus navigation robot model, which proved to be the most effective. The combination of intelligent creatures, impromptu decision-making, and artificial intelligence's data processing displayed combat effectiveness that crushed various robot warplanes. This model was also referenced in later improved models, including the Ghost Fighter of the Fourth Civilization. The scientists of the Fourth Civilization integrated the navigation robot into the fighter jet's electronic system, providing two sets of control systems. This allowed the Wraith fighters to continue confronting the fighters of the Galactic Republic. War, in essence, is a process where the warring parties learn from each other, understand each other, and then attempt to destroy each other. The Fourth Civilization and the Galactic Republic, unknowingly, influenced each other's technological research and development. Now, the naval commanders of the Galactic Republic were witnessing the flexible flying posture of tens of thousands of drones, which were not only agile, but also scientifically coordinated. This evasion strategy was based on the unified planning and consideration of tens of thousands of individuals. A simple evasive action had set back the Galactic Republic's own flight control system by at least 10 years, and this feat was accomplished by countless tiny drones. These drones were no more than 2 meters in size, not even as tall as a taller person. The main body of the drone consisted of engines installed on both sides, with a gun barrel in the center, which was also its only weapon. The size was considerable for a drone, resembling a telescope in appearance. They were truly small, and flying in space with such a size, if not carefully observed, they could easily go unnoticed. In front of those fighter pilots, you may not be able to see it. Any results from the scan? What drone model is this? Gideon Tarkin asked over his shoulder. General, the scan is complete. This is indeed a drone, but its structure is very unconventional. The engine occupies too much space, leaving minimal room for the central processing unit and weapon systems. Can such a drone really have combat power? The radar operator said doubtfully. Additionally, these drones have shield responses, indicating they possess a shield system. This is impossible. How can such a small drone hold so many systems? Prepare the third batch of fighter jets for battle. If the situation deteriorates, take off immediately. Gideon Tarkin commanded, his eyes fixed on the holographic screen. As he spoke, the swarm of drones suddenly accelerated, surpassing their previous speed limits. They quickly entered the center of the Republic fighter formation, turning the scene into a nightmare. The drones moved with such speed and agility that the Republic fighter pilots couldn't react in time. As the drones passed by, they fired plasma rays from their barrels. The beams caused violent ripples on the fighters' shields, triggering alarms in the cockpits. Before the pilots could respond, more drones attacked, firing consecutive plasma rays. The shield of a V-wing fighter overloaded, and the pilot, realizing the danger, attempted to retreat. However, the V-wing, known for its flexibility, couldn't evade the drones. The drones completed their turn and attacked again, their plasma rays penetrating the cockpit of the V-wing fighter. More than 20,000 swarm drones ruthlessly shredded the Republic fighter formation, relying on their numerical superiority. The drones' speed, firepower, and advanced flight control system made them incredibly effective in combat. Within moments, hundreds of Galactic Republic fighters were shot down. Retreat! Retreat! Ah! I can't aim. They're everywhere. This is Huoji 3. I can't catch up with them. The target is lost. Huojian No 3. Behind you! Behind you! They have shields. Can't be knocked down. Can't be knocked down. The pilots' communications were filled with desperate cries. The elite pilots of the Republic were at a loss, facing an opponent they had never encountered before. Despite their small size, the swarm drones packed immense firepower. The plasma rays from their barrels could destroy a V-wing fighter's shield with just 2 or 3 shots and penetrate the fighter's armor with a single shot. These drones also had their own shield systems. Although not very powerful, the shields could resist a single shot from a V-wing fighter. However, V-wing fighters rarely had a second chance to fire. They were either destroyed or outmaneuvered by the swarm drones. The most terrifying aspect of these swarm drones was their speed. The engines on both sides of the drones occupied almost 2/3 of their volume, emphasizing speed as their primary design focus. When flying at full speed, the drones could accelerate close to 400 gs, a speed that Republic pilots couldn't achieve even with the most advanced decompression protection devices. At such speeds, V-wing fighters were utterly outmatched, simply cannot catch up to each other. Whether to fight or run, all are controlled by swarm drones. Even if a concussion missile is launched, the drone locked by the missile can escape quickly, creating an opportunity for other drones to intercept the missile. Such a result is a nightmare. No way. Our fighter jets are no match at all. Retreat. Let them withdraw. On the bridge of the flagship of the Republic, the adjutant saw the tragic battle and could no longer care about the relationship between superiors and subordinates. Gideon Tarkin stood there with a livid face and did not stop his adjutant's action that could be sent directly to the military court. He acquiesced because of the massacre happening in front of him. He himself was a little terrified, but as the supreme commander of the fleet, he couldn't show it. All fighter formations retreat. Return to the fleet's inner air defense network and don't attack rashly. The third wave of fighter jets takes off immediately and covers their retreat. Gideon Tarkin finally issued an order. More V-wing fighters took off and began to cover the fighter formation that had been defeated in the previous engagement. At the is time, under the command of Matt Horner, the fleet of the Principality of Dawn did not give the opponent a chance to breathe. They began to continue to close the distance. At this distance of about 1 light minute, the hit rate of the disaster-class battlecruiser's particle light spear had reached a terrifying level. The Republic warships were constantly being hit by particle lances, and they could only keep maneuvering fast. The result of this was that the formation of the fleet was constantly being disrupted, and the tight defensive formation deployed by Gideon Tarkin before was quickly pulled apart. After the Republic fighter formation paid the loss of more than 700 aircraft, it finally returned to the air defense circle of its own fleet. But this was not over yet. The swarm drones were constantly chasing and had swarmed in. Tens of thousands of swarm drones began to attack the Republic fleet. A Jaeger-class battlecruiser was targeted by thousands of drones, and the surroundings of this battleship were almost completely enveloped by the rays of light from countless plasma rays. The close-in defense gunfire on the Jaeger-class battlecruiser continued to fire, but with little effect. As long as these swarm drones were hit, they would immediately start to retreat with full power, and more drones would come to fill the gap immediately, giving no chance for the Republic's air defense firepower to achieve effective destruction. In fact, except for being hit by heavier firepower or missiles, the level of ordinary close-in firepower was simply impossible to destroy the swarm drones with one blow. Almost at the beginning of the battle, Gideon Tarkin was cornered. He never thought that his fighter formation would be defeated so quickly. In this way, all his strategic and tactical deployments were broken. For a long time, that large and extremely elite fighter group had always been the proud existence of the Galactic Republic. Countless flight academies all over the inner and core circles of the galaxy had provided the military with countless excellent pilots. After the Ruusan reforms, the construction and development of large warships were restricted. On the contrary, the field of fighter pilots became a high-maintenance arm. Therefore, when Willix Blissex, who was still working at the Kuat Power Dockyard at the time, fully considered the advantage of the Galactic Republic when designing the Jaeger-class battlecruiser, he made the Jaeger-class an aviation battleship that could actually fit 400 carrier-based aircraft into it. So, after the Jaeger class became the most important battleship of the Galactic Republic Navy, almost every time it was dispatched, it would be accompanied by tens of thousands of excellent pilots. These pilots took off in groups, and in many cases, their numbers alone were enough to overwhelm the enemy. The V-wing fighter jets of the Galactic Republic were once considered unparalleled, even comparable to the Vulture robot fighters of the Federation of Independent Galaxy. These elite fighter jet squadrons have long been the Republic's secret weapon for securing victories. Historically, in every confrontation between the Fourth Civilization and the Galactic Republic, the Republic's air superiority was undeniable. Even though the Wraith fighters, equipped with advanced stealth systems, were far superior to the Republic's V-19 Torrent light fighters, they could never secure air dominance. This was primarily due to the overwhelming numerical advantage the Republic's pilots had, often outnumbering their opponents 10-1. To counter this, the Fourth Civilization deployed numerous Guard-class anti-aircraft destroyers in each battle. They also utilized the recently retired Reckless-class and Spearman-class frigates, which were repurposed to combat the Republic's air forces. Additionally, Cole-class battlecruisers were outfitted with extensive anti-aircraft artillery. These measures were all in response to the formidable fighter force of the Republic. With the introduction of the V-wing fighter, the Galactic Republic aimed to further solidify its aerial dominance. However, the outcome was far from what anyone had anticipated. Gideon Tarkin launched 2 waves of fighters, totaling over 2,600 aircraft, including more than 1,500 state-of-the-art V-wing fighters. Such a formidable force was expected to decimate tens of thousands of Vulture robot fighters with ease. Yet, the reality was starkly different. The fighter formation of the Galactic Republic, once a source of immense pride, was rendered almost defenseless against the tiny swarm drones. Within less than half an hour of the battle commencing, the Republic's forces suffered devastating losses and were forced to retreat. As a result, Gideon Tarkin's fleet found itself directly confronting tens of thousands of swarm drones, a scenario they were ill-prepared for. Chapter 116, Going to the Battlefield. At this moment, the main fleet of the 20th Army of the Galactic Republic was surrounded by countless swarm drones. These drones resembled real bee swarms, with their sheer numbers and untraceable volumes, combined with powerful lethality. Even though these micro-drones were only about a meter in size, they managed to penetrate the shields of several Jaeger-class battlecruisers during their dense assault. This completely overturned all of Gideon Tarkin's expectations. Traditionally, larger size always had an advantage in technological warfare. Under the same technological conditions, a 500-meter-long warship would be no match for a 1,000-meter-long warship. If such a situation occurred, it would indicate a generational difference in technology between the two sides. But now, a 1-meter-long micro-drone was penetrating the shields of a 137-meter-long Jaeger-class battlecruiser. Normally, this level of attack wouldn't even shake the self-circulation of the warship's deflector shield. In other words, it would be useless even if it shot for 10,000 years. But now, the shield of a Jaeger-class battlecruiser had been penetrated by those tiny drones. No, something is wrong. Gideon Tarkin suddenly had a terrible premonition of impending doom. He shouted, "Continue to launch the fighter jets. All anti-aircraft firepower, open fire. We must drive away those flying drones." "Yes, sir." On the Jaeger-class battlecruiser Flash, sirens blared continuously. A large number of pilots, fully dressed and holding huge full-coverage flight helmets, marched in squadrons to their respective hangars for final preparations. The assembled squadrons stood in a row to receive the squadron leader's final briefing. "Listen up, squadron. Today is our lucky day, because our job is to fight. Flies! Flies!" the squadron leader shouted. "This is the tradition of our Nishida squadron. Bring back the victory." "Darling squadron, did you see the data I sent just now? This is our target, small, fast, and ferocious. If we want to come back alive, we must follow the established tactical plan." Iron Bird Squadron, assembled. Firecat Squadron, assembled. In the bustling hangar platform, fighter pilots and ground crews were gathering everywhere. Fighters were constantly being towed to the electromagnetic catapult by towing devices, and instructors were giving the pilots final instructions. Ground crews were preparing the fighter jets for takeoff, filling them with fuel, and loading concussion missiles into the missile bays using anti-gravity hoisting machinery. Engineers connected data cables to the weapon systems of the fighter jets, pressing buttons until the columns indicating weapon energy, fire control system, and control system were full, and the green light was on. The engineers then unplugged the data cables and gave a thumbs up to indicate that the weapon systems were ready. Cylindrical navigation robots entered the fighter jets through the lifting systems inside, completing the system docking. Set off. Get ready to take off. Go. The pilots ran to their fighter jets, grabbed the handles, and jumped into the cockpits, putting on their full coverage helmets. With the access of various system data, a large amount of information appeared in front of the pilots. The panoramic projection system activated, displaying the 360-degree situation around the fighter jets without any blind spots. For ordinary people, this would be dizzying and overwhelming, but for these long-term trained pilots, it was as simple as eating. Communications from the Flight Control Center of the battleship Flash began to come through. The communication system crackled to life. Gus Squadron, this is the Flight Control Center of the Flash, number 0079. I will be coordinating with you for this battle dispatch, announced a female soldier with ponytails seated in front of a computer. She checked the data on her screen while activating the communication microphone. The spacious office around her was bustling with activity, hundreds of personnel at their respective stations, providing support for each squadron of the warship. This was the flight control center of the Jaeger-class battlecruiser, located directly beneath the bridge. Wow, it's Sergeant Marlene. I sat at her table at dinner yesterday, one of the pilots whistled. Don't talk nonsense, the squadron leader interrupted. This is Tornado Squadron. We are ready to take off. Please provide the tactical objective for this operation. Gus Squadron, your objective is to assist the battleship Sky Green in its air defense operations. The ship is currently under attack by Ford 70 drones. Prepare for immediate takeoff. The countdown is 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, the front shield of our ship will be lowered to facilitate takeoff. The takeoff window is 2 minutes, so please hurry, Marlene instructed. Tornado Squadron received. The squadron leader confirmed. A roaring sound echoed from the hangar platform, drawing everyone's attention upwards. The ceiling of the hangar, which spanned hundreds of meters, began to part, revealing the dark expanse of space. An invisible wall of light separated them from the vacuum of space, with a deflector shield in place to resist attacks. The supposedly empty universe was now filled with countless flames. Fighter jets zoomed past, laser cannons and blaster cannons firing wildly. Missiles soared into the air, leaving light blue trails as they homed in on their targets. The close-in defense guns on either side of the hangar platform gate were also firing incessantly. Despite the chaos, the enemy remained invisible to the naked eye. Only the relentless firing indicated their presence. Suddenly, countless tiny beams of light lit up the space. These beams were small, but densely packed. For a brief moment, the tiny figures emitting these beams were visible. As the beams fired, several Republic fighter jets exploded into fireballs, scattering fragments in all directions. The previously relaxed atmosphere in the Storm Squadron's communication channel was replaced by a deathly silence. This was the battlefield they were about to enter, a desperate, chaotic battlefield. The crisp voice of the flight controller broke the silence. Countdown 10 seconds. Ready to take off. 10, 9, 8. The electromagnetic ejection devices under all the fighter jets were fully charged. The Jaeger-class battlecruiser Flash had moved to a relatively safe position, the front deflector shield lowered, and the hangar platform doors opened. As the countdown ended, one Republic fighter jet after another was ejected, accelerating instantly to over 10 G, and they flew towards the tragic battlefield ahead. Chapter 617. Reinforcements arrive. Countless swarm drones flew in groups through space. They were fast and deadly, constantly searching for targets. Once they found one, they swarmed, launching countless plasma rays until the target was completely destroyed. The fighter jets of the Galactic Republic couldn't keep up with these swarm drones. Even when they managed to get into a trailing attack position, they were often outmaneuvered before they could fire more than a few shots. Eventually, the fighter formations gave up on confronting the drones head-on. They adjusted their strategy, focusing on driving the drones away by launching missiles and lasers from a distance, forcing the drones to evade and lose their targets. However, this tactic only delayed the inevitable. The swarm drones continued to wreak havoc on the battlefield, destroying fighter formations, attacking warships, and retreating swiftly, giving their opponents no chance to retaliate. There were many ways to combat these swarm drones. In Starcraft, the Zerg's method was simple and brutal. Overwhelming numbers. If 10,000 drones attacked, they would counter with 100,000 bugs. The human method involved fire coverage, using the powerful firepower of Valkyrie missile frigates to create large-scale destructive missile saturation attacks, leaving no gaps in the airspace. Unfortunately, the Galactic Republic had neither of these options. Relying on inferior fighter formations to chase the swarm drones was a losing strategy. In Starcraft, using ghost fighters to play with drones without attacking the carrier body would result in a miserable outcome. On the bridge of the flagship of the Republic fleet, the Commander 2-class dreadnought ship Will, tensions were high. "I need an answer. How can such a small drone launch such a powerful weapon?" Gideon Tarkin yelled. "General, we've conducted extensive scans and observations. We can confirm that these drones use plasma rays to transmit huge energy instantly by accelerating the flow of charged particles to the speed of light. Their weapon systems are more advanced than we imagined. We have similar weapons, but we can't achieve such a volume-to-power ratio," an engineer explained. "No matter how advanced, can such a microdrone really shake our battlecruiser?" Gideon Tarkin asked coldly. The engineer shook his head. "That's the point, the abnormal volume-to-power ratio. We've also detected a wireless link between these drones and their mothership. It's possible that long-range energy transmission allows their weapons to get a short-lived boost. But this is too unbelievable, so it's just a guess." Long-range energy transmission with tens of thousands of drones at the same time? Is that technically possible? Gideon Tarkin asked. "If you asked me to build such a system, I'd tell you to look for it in science fiction," the engineer replied bluntly. Gideon Tarkin took a deep breath and looked at the holographic star map. Their fleet was on the verge of collapse. 4 Jaeger-class battlecruisers were destroyed, 11 were severely damaged, and almost all the rest had sustained some damage. Their fighter formations had suffered even heavier losses. Fragments of V-Wing and V-19 fighters floated across the battlefield, and the mutilated corpses of pilots were scattered everywhere. Now that the energy of the swarm drones had depleted, the motherships were recovering them in batches for recharging and maintenance. But the Republic fleet couldn't relax, because the warships of the Duchy of Liming were already charging towards them. The two sides were engaged in a fierce artillery battle. Supermatter electromagnetic guns, particle light spears, and Firecloud series missiles, these powerful long-range weapons posed a significant threat to the Republic fleet. To gain an advantage, Gideon Tarkin had ordered the fighter formation to continue attacking the Dawn Principality fleet. However, this decision carried a hidden danger. When the swarm drones struck again, how much combat capability would these exhausted pilots have left? The only consolation was that the 10 Knight-class Star Destroyers had survived the swarm drone attack. Yet Gideon Tarkin was not optimistic about how long they could hold out. "Send the order. The will move forward. Move to the forefront of the battlefield." Gideon Tarkin commanded decisively. "General, in the current battlefield situation, if we advance rashly, the Separatists will undoubtedly concentrate their firepower on our ship." The adjutant exclaimed in shock. "Reinforcements will arrive soon. Until then, we must not be routed. Go forward." Gideon Tarkin shouted. "Yes, sir." The adjutant did not dare to disobey and immediately conveyed the instruction to the controller. "Right rudder 11, turn immediately. Engine output increased by 40%. Forward." The massive Commander 2-class dreadnought began to turn. The 8,000-meter-long ship looked like a giant and undisputed overlord on this battlefield. Its powerful main guns fired continuously, with turrets deployed in a circle around the battleship. Each time they fired, the beams illuminated the entire ship. Without warning, a piercing alarm sounded on the console of the Will. The fire control radar had detected a main gun-level weapon being recharged. Left rudder 7, the bow sinks 12 degrees. The adjutant continued to issue instructions to make the battleship start to evade. Sure enough, 2 particle light spears shot across the battleship in an instant. Even though they didn't hit directly, the terrifying energy contained in them caused fluctuations in the battleship's shield. More artillery fire concentrated on the Will, and more beams were fired. Despite its size, the Commander 2 class dreadnought was hit by 3 particle light spears in a short period as it rushed forward. Although the shield system frantically alarmed, it still held. After the swarm drones were fully charged, their offensive on the battlefield became relentless. They began to concentrate their attacks on the Commander 2 dreadnought, inadvertently reducing the pressure on other warships. An hour into the fierce exchange of fire, white light flashed in space. Then, 140 warships emerged from hyperspace and appeared in the Yago-Dur galaxy. These included 40 Hunter-class battlecruisers and 100 small and medium warships. The strategy of Octavian Grant, governor of the 20th Army of the Republic, was beginning to show results. A large number of Republic warships had been assembled in the forward base built in the surrounding unmanned galaxies in advance, making it very convenient to reinforce and join the battle. Chapter 16:18, Opening of the Second Battlefield. Reinforcements. Our reinforcements have arrived. We are saved. Cries of joy filled the Galactic Republic's fleet communications, as if a drowning man had been dragged ashore at the last moment. The fleet's posture suggested they were not the aggressors in the Yago-Dur galaxy, but rather the defenders, desperately holding their ground. Even the fleet commander, Gideon Tarkin, had cold sweat on his forehead, realizing his grave miscalculations. He had underestimated the strength of the Separatist fleet, their determination to attack, and the devastating impact on the Republic's most powerful fighter formation. Their fear was justified. They had indeed walked through the gates of hell. If the reinforcements had been an hour late, they might have been annihilated. This was no exaggeration. At that critical moment, the swarm drones had gained complete control, decimating the Republic's fighter formation, disrupting their fleet, and drawing the firepower of their warships. The main fleet of the Principality of Dawn, following closely behind, had already concentrated its firepower on the Republic's warships. The Cole-class battlecruiser's supermatter electromagnetic gun and the Disaster-class battlecruiser's particle light spear were formidable weapons. As the distance between the two fleets shrank, these weapons became even more terrifying, especially the particle light spear, which at a distance of about 1 light minute was nearly impossible to dodge. Under its assault, a Hunter-class battlecruiser could withstand at most 5 rounds, but in actual combat, it often succumbed in fewer. Defeat seemed inevitable. But then, reinforcements arrived. 40 Jaeger-class battlecruisers and 100 small and medium warships appeared. Octavian Grant, the governor of the 20th Army of the Republic, demonstrated his strategic acumen. He did not adhere to the scheduled plan of sending fewer warships with more engineering and supply ships. Upon learning of the Separatist fleet's aggressive stance, he decisively dispatched his main fleet. With 40 Jaeger-class battlecruisers, the theoretical carrying capacity reached 16,000 fighters. The Galactic Republic, having learned from past mistakes, no longer fully loaded the Jaeger-class battlecruisers. A fully loaded Jaeger-class not only reduced the efficiency of fighter takeoffs and landings, but also suffered catastrophic losses when destroyed. The Hunter-class battlecruiser, once a symbol of invincibility, was now recognized for its vulnerabilities. Even with the current standard aircraft capacity, a Jaeger-class still carried over 250 fighters. With the arrival of reinforcements, the number of Republic fighters now matched the swarm drones. This bolstered Gideon Tarkin's confidence. He immediately ordered the reinforcement fleet to launch their fighters to protect the warships from the swarm drone attacks. With reinforcements in place, Tarkin could finally execute a counteroffensive. He ordered all Knight-class Star Destroyers to form a combat formation, led by his flagship, the Commander 2 class dreadnought ship, Will. Gathering all Archetons-class light cruisers as a mobile force, he launched an assault targeting the separatist Archon-class aircraft carrier. Tarkin understood that the swarm drones, which posed a significant threat, were all launched from this massive 3,175-meter-long aircraft carrier. The later SOA-class carriers served merely as drone warehouses, drone operations, and they play an auxiliary role in flight control and command. The control core of these swarm drones is on the Console-class aircraft carrier. If this Archon-class aircraft carrier can be destroyed, all swarm drones will become headless chickens, and the battle will return to their expected track. You have a particle light spear? No problem. I have a shield ship to counter it, with hundreds of thousands of shield capacitors ready to be replaced. You have an interstellar base? Fine. I'll build my own logistics base to slowly wear you down. You have a powerful fleet with mutual matching combat power? That's okay. My number of warships is at least 5 times that of yours. Isn't that good? Won't everyone be happy after finishing this battle happily? You mudlegs of the Outer Ring are only worthy of being background panels, aren't you? Why do you still want to make this out? With his usual sense of superiority and keen control over the battlefield, Gideon Tarkin gave the assault order. The assault formation directly engaged the dense firepower of the Duchy of Liming's fleet. At this time, the swarm drones were recovering supplies and recharging in batches after launching the last attack. Gideon Tarkin's assault hit just when the Duchy of Dawn's fleet was at its weakest. The 60 XX-9 heavy-duty turbolaser cannons on the Knight-class Star Destroyer fired powerful and dense turbolaser beams, and the extremely powerful firepower covered the fleet of the Principality of Dawn like raindrops. For a time, countless explosive flames and destructive lights erupted in the fleets of both sides. Meanwhile, on the flagship of the Duchy of Dawn's fleet, the bridge of the Console-class aircraft carrier, "Hey, General, a large number of reinforcements from the Galactic Republic have arrived, and they are launching an assault on our ship," the adjutant said loudly. Admiral Matt Horner, Commander-in-Chief of the Duchy of Dawn's Navy and Commander-in-Chief of the Yagodur Galaxy Battle, stood in the center of the bridge as straight as a compass, with his hands behind his back, looking at the holographic combat star map in front of him. On the star map, the Republic fleet had divided some warships to form a frontal formation, launched a large number of fighter jets to cover it, and initiated a resolute assault on their formation. However, Matt Horner just shook his head and said, "Are they going to attack? It seems they have discovered that the Po Jiang is controlling the swarm drones." "General, there is no room for loss on the Po," said the adjutant. Matt Horner nodded and gave an order. "Order all the disaster-class battlecruisers to fire at the enemy flagship, the Commander 2-class Dreadnought. The Cole-class battlecruiser will move forward to provide cover, and the other battleships will begin to turn around. Withdraw. Retreat to the protection range of the interstellar base one by one." "Yes, sir." All 20 disaster-class battlecruisers immediately began to charge their particle light spears, adjusted the angle of their hulls, and aimed at Gideon Tarkin's flagship, the Will Commander 2-class Dreadnought, before firing a salvo. The 20 powerful particle light spears arrived in no time. Even though the Commander 2 was already performing evasive maneuvers, it was still hit several times. The immense power of this volley even caused a fire in one of the shield capacitor compartments of the Will. Under such terrifying power, Gideon Tarkin did not dare to continue letting his flagship assault. According to the Staff Department's calculations, if they continued to advance, the Commander 2-class Dreadnought could withstand at most 3 to 4 more volleys before being critically damaged. More importantly, on the console of the Commander 2 Dreadnought, alarms sounded continuously. Their energy systems and weapon systems had been interfered with by the opponent, preventing them from exerting their maximum firepower. Under such circumstances, Gideon Tarkin understood that even a giant ship like the Commander 2 Dreadnought was in real danger. Admiral Matt Horner observed the Republic assault fleet's retreat with a sense of relief. The enemy had launched a brief but intense assault, only to pull back after a barrage of artillery fire. Horner decided against pursuing them, opting instead to maintain the retreat command. The Dawn Principality fleet withdrew to the protective range of their two Argonev-class interstellar bases, reformed their formation, and sent their damaged warships to the given shipyard for emergency repairs. During the Republic fleet's assault, 7 Kolslang-class battlecruisers from the Dawn Principality fleet sustained severe damage. One of these battlecruisers lost power and had to be towed back by 3 other ships using tractor beams. The Republic fleet's firepower was formidable, with 600 double-mounted heavy turbolaser cannons on their 10 Knights and the rapid-firing XX-9 turbolaser cannons. The Dawn Principality's warships struggled to withstand such an onslaught. If not for the continuous shield replenishment from the Dunov-class battlecruisers and the full-power interference from the Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruisers against the Republic's Commander II class dreadnought, the losses would have been even greater. The Commander II class dreadnoughts were particularly menacing. These ships, equipped with super laser cannons by the Kuat Power Dockyard to counter the separatist Titan battleship Swanwu, had proven their might during the Battle of the Eliadu Galaxy. Despite their size and clumsiness, they remained dominant on the battlefield, especially in the absence of the Titan battleship Swanwu. In previous engagements, the two sides had primarily engaged in long-range exchanges, with swarm drones taking the brunt of the assault. Consequently, only 3 Martha-class missile-heavy cruisers from the Dawn Principality fleet had been damaged, and not severely. Thanks to the robust industrial capabilities of the Giving, these ships could be quickly repaired. The Martha-class cruisers had suffered the most damage because they had moved to the front of the formation to achieve better launch angles. Later, the Cole-class battlecruisers naturally took the lead in the formation. Gideon Tarkin, on the other hand, was in a foul mood. His carefully laid plans had been thwarted by Admiral Matt Horner's audacious assault. The swarm drones had nearly overwhelmed his forces, and his decision to launch a counter-assault had to be aborted. The powerful electronic warfare capabilities of the Separatists had once again proven to be a significant hindrance. The Commander-class dreadnoughts were neutralized by the enemy's Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruisers, further fueling Tarkin's frustration. Suppressing his anger, Tarkin felt humiliated as he ordered the retreat. He vowed to make the Separatists pay tenfold for the humiliation he had endured. However, he was unaware that General Matt Horner, the Commander-in-Chief of the Principality of Dawn, was also feeling aggrieved. Despite the apparent advantage and favorable battle-loss ratio, the cost had been high. The Dawn Principality fleet had 1 battleship paralyzed, 6 heavily damaged, and 3 slightly injured, while managing to destroy 5 Jaeger-class ships. Admiral Matt Horner had led his fleet into a fierce battle against the Galactic Republic, managing to severely damage 17 ships and shoot down over 3,000 Republic fighters. Despite these impressive numbers, he knew that such a loss ratio would not secure victory. The opposing commander had proven to be equally decisive and formidable, making strategic moves that thwarted Horner's plans at every turn. When Horner launched a powerful assault, the enemy commander quickly stabilized the situation by deploying his flagship. He also sent reinforcements from the rear without hesitation and launched a targeted assault on Horner's control corps, the Archon-class aircraft carrier. These decisive actions revealed the enemy commander's tactical prowess, frustrating Horner's efforts to destroy the Republic's logistics base. Although Horner managed to destroy 1 of the 5 shield ships, the remaining 4 continued to provide a safe haven for the Republic fleet to rest and maintain their forces. Despite utilizing the swarm drone's powerful combat capabilities to batter the Republic fleet, Horner failed to achieve his strategic objectives. The battle would now continue as a grueling head-to-head confrontation until a decisive event occurred, as Bahar Barnak had predicted. On the night of July 21st, 20 BBY, while a fierce battle raged in the Yagodur Galaxy, another unprecedentedly large fleet was making final preparations in a hidden, uninhabited galaxy within the core circle of the Milky Way. This once barren galaxy had been transformed into a massive forward base, complete with space stations, docks, factories, and warehouses. Near the star of this uninhabited galaxy, a colossal disc-shaped device with a diameter of over 20,000 meters had been completed. Surrounding the star, hundreds of energy-harvesting devices spread out enormous solar sails, each tens of kilometers wide. These devices concentrated vast amounts of energy and injected it into the disk. Everything was ready. Chapter 1619, The Massive Fleet. In the uninhabited galaxy, designated T6652U7X8849L, all the warships available from the Kuat Power Dockyard have been assembled. For a regime like the Galactic Republic, which prides itself on democracy, freedom, free markets, and free trade, industrial giants such as Kuat Power Dockyard wield immense power. In this regime, the industrial facilities built by these giants, including industrial bases, mining bases, and interstellar docks, are privately owned. Consequently, they can arm a massive fleet whenever they choose. However, the Galactic Republic has a safeguard: the Constitution of the Republic. According to this constitution, no organization other than the Republic's military is allowed to maintain a defensive fleet above a certain standard. This limitation prevents companies like Kuat Power Dockyard and Corellian Engineering Company, which do business with the military, from expanding unchecked. Their production capacity is generally based on military orders, and they rarely operate at full capacity. This time, however, after receiving permission from the Galactic Republic Council, Kuat Power Dockyard was able to fully demonstrate its industrial capabilities. For the Galactic Republic, if someone is willing to pay for so many warships, why not proceed? For Kuat Power Dockyard, this represents an enormous business opportunity. Success would not only strengthen their ties with the military, but also grant them access to the advanced shipbuilding technology of Dawnstar. Even if they fail, their connection with the Galactic Republic would still be reinforced, albeit in a different manner. As Adel Ulan had previously predicted, Kuat Power Dockyard utilized all its existing inventory, built numerous warships in a short period, and organized a massive fleet. Contrary to Ulan's expectations, the number of warships gathered this time was beyond imagination. In the densely packed T6652U7X8849L galaxy, the fleet included 200 Hunter-class battlecruisers, 60 Invincible-class battlecruisers, 2,001 meters, 5 Commander-class dreadnoughts, 8,000 meters, 5 Governor-class battleships, 4,000 meters, 20 Prosecutor-class battlecruisers, 2,500 meters, 40 Knight-class star destroyers, 10 Cheer-class assault landing ships, and 100 Arkans-class light cruisers. The total number of warships was 440, with nearly all being capital ships and no small battleships in the formation. This fleet essentially scoured the Kuat Power Dockyard, including the planetary defense fleet and recent production capacity, utilizing almost all remaining parts. The size of this fleet, in terms of the number of battleships, surpassed the strength of any current Galactic Republic Legion. Typically, a Galactic Republic Legion comprises about 100 to 200 capital ships and 1,000 to 5,000 ships when including other warships. When launching an attack, a reorganized fleet usually consists of about 50 capital ships, with other warships totaling around 300 to 600 ships. This highlights the enormity of the fleet organized by Kuat Power Dockyard. In a massive space station within the galaxy, Onana Quart, the leader of Kuat Power Dockyard, and Lila Blissex, the chief engineer, stood together in the command center. They watched thousands of people busily working, coordinating the entire galaxy's operations. At the center of the command center was a Quart logo cast from silver-gray rare metal. The logo featured a geometric pattern composed of 2 equilateral triangles within a star ring, resembling the sun's rays from a distance. This emblem was not only present here, but also painted on the sides of all spaceships and warships in the galaxy, signifying their affiliation. The soldiers guarding the command center are all members of the Kuat Security Force. Their uniforms are distinctly different from those of the Galactic Republic. They wear white military uniforms and tall white hats, which are well-tailored and resemble a guard of honor more than traditional military attire. Additionally, the skin color of the Kuati, the name for humans Frar on the planet Kuat, is generally a slightly darker shade, giving this army a unique appearance. Notably, most of the officials at various levels here are women, reflecting the matrilineal society of the Kuati people. According to their traditions, the primary leaders and senior officials are women, while most men engage in physical labor. Although this tradition has diminished somewhat with technological advancements, it still profoundly influences Kuwati society. For instance, Quarter Jr., the next-generation successor of Quarter Power Shipyard, dresses in a manner that reflects this tradition, despite his character being far from effeminate. In the original plot, he is portrayed as a hero, yet societal norms dictate his attire. The initial test of the hyperspace stabilizer has just been completed. 20 frigates jumped out of this channel with a difference of 10 seconds and were then intercepted by the preset hyperspace blocker, Leela Blissex reported. Now, the final preparations are also complete. This fleet is enough to crush the Dawn Star. Onana Quarter's expression was grim. The Supreme Strategic Command has sent information that the Titan battleship Xuanwu of the Dawn Star is still in the Eliadu galaxy. Additionally, 20 disaster-class battlecruisers and a large, unknown-type aircraft carrier over 3,000 meters long appeared on the battlefield of the Yago-Dur galaxy. The most formidable battleships of Dawn Planet are all elsewhere. This time, our assault won't encounter much resistance. I hope so, Leela Blissex replied coolly. If you obtained the battleship database of Dawn Planet, what would you do, dear Court of Court? Her tone was slightly sarcastic. Onana Quarter ignored the sarcasm in Lila's words and responded slowly. Naturally, it will be handed over to the Galactic Republic and to His Excellency Speaker Palpatine. Then, the Speaker will issue authorization to select objects for study and analyze which technologies to focus on. I believe that if we achieve such significant accomplishments, His Excellency the Speaker will reward us generously. Note 1. In Star Wars, there are many subtle nuances. For instance, Kuwat has some parallels to South Asian cultures. In the Star Wars universe, planets that hold core power, such as Coruscant, Alderaan, and Laxus, are predominantly inhabited by white-skinned individuals. In contrast, planets far from the political core or with unique settings often feature people of color, such as the Black Kurunai, the South Asians of Quartet, and Christopher West. However, planets like Corellia, which produce protagonists, are naturally white-skinned. The entire Star Wars universe often feels like it is viewed from a white-skinned perspective, appreciating the diversity of multiple species and civilizations in the galaxy. However, starting from the new trilogy, there has been an increase in diversity, reflecting a more inclusive approach. Chapter 1620, The Army Dispatched. Lila Blissex sneered inwardly as she listened to Onana Quarter's obviously duplicitous words. She knew that Onana's statements were meant to be relayed to her fiancé, Dun Wessex. Give the obtained technology to the Galactic Republic, she thought. Heh, I'm sure you've already started negotiating terms with the Republic the moment you got those technologies. But it didn't matter. The victory of this expedition was destined to have nothing to do with Onana. Lila's eyes flashed with a sinister glint before she plastered a convincing smile on her face. Kuwat is still so far-sighted, she said. Yes, only the Galactic Republic is the future of our Kuwat power dock. The victory of this Project Scavenger will belong to the Galactic Republic. The smile on Onana's face froze, and she responded with an awkward smile, choosing not to speak further. Fortunately, at that moment, Fleet Commander Cassio Tag entered with his adjutant, Laszlo Dolittle, relieving Onana of her embarrassment. Cassio Tag nodded slightly and addressed Onana. The fleet has been formed and is ready to go. Although all the fleets under his command were provided by the middle-aged woman in front of him, Cassio Tag, serving in the military, did not need to salute Onana. Instead, the veteran behind him, Laszlo Dolittle, saluted her. This veteran, worn down by society and reality, valued the endless money in Onana's hands far more than the badge on his uniform. According to the battle plan, we will officially start in 1 hour. We can proceed, Leela Blissex said before Onana could respond. Let's get started. Onana finally gave the order. Cassio Tag nodded, turned around, and walked out of the command center with Onana and the others, heading towards the spaceport platform. On the wide-loading platform, numerous ceremonial bands were ready, and thousands of Kuwat soldiers guarded the area. Although these soldiers looked serious, their refined white military uniforms and high hats did not give the impression of going to war. In the center of the platform stood a Lambda-class shuttle, adorned with lights, festoons, countless flowers, and ribbons, making the military spaceship appear almost beautiful. A golden rope was symbolically tied to one side of the shuttle, extending to an equally ornate high platform. Onana led the way, followed by Lila Blissex and Cassio Tag, with Laszlo Dolittle bringing up the rear. The four walked onto the high platform as the ceremonial music began to play, and the large band performed energetically. After Onana gave what she believed to be a rousing speech, an attendant arrived with a tray containing a golden scimitar. Onana pretended to offer the honor to Lila, but Lila resolutely refused, and the golden knife was finally handed to Onana. She raised the golden knife high and then slashed it down exaggeratedly, cutting the golden rope tied to the Lambda-class shuttle. This was a tradition of the Kuat people. Since ancient times, before the Kuat people set sail, they would use a golden knife to cut a rope, hoping to receive the sea god's blessing for calm seas and a bountiful harvest. This tradition had continued into the interstellar era. Whenever a new type of warship from the Kuat Power dockyards sailed out, this ceremony of cutting the rope with a golden knife was performed. This time, as Onana prepared to launch what she considered a last-ditch effort, the tradition was naturally followed. After cutting the rope, Onana solemnly handed the golden knife to Cassio Tag, symbolically entrusting this unprecedentedly large fleet to the young commander. Cassio Tag, a military genius and top student at the academy, wore an impatient expression. Born on the planet Tapasi, he had little regard for the traditions of Kuat. His thoughts were consumed by the fleet he was eager to command. He longed to lead this powerful fleet, achieve victories, defeat all enemies, and spread his renown throughout the galaxy. However, Onana Quarter, the true mastermind behind the fleet, had provided the entire armada. Despite his deep-seated admiration for military honor and his disdain for the humble businessman, Cassio maintained a facade of patience and respect. Cassio took the saber with both hands, raised it high, waved it ceremoniously, and then sheathed it at his waist. He and his adjutant, Laszlo Dorit, boarded the shuttle, which soared into the sky and headed towards his flagship, a modified commander-class Star Destroyer. The drums and music continued to play on the spaceport platform, the passionate military tunes stirring excitement among the crowd. Onana Quarter turned to Lila Blissex and said, "Activate the hyperspace stabilizer." Lila nodded and pressed the button in front of her. On the outskirts of the star system, a massive disc-shaped device with a diameter of 20,000 meters began to move. Under the calculations of the navigation engineer, it aligned itself with the hyperspace channel in the model star area. Hundreds of energy supply devices near the star were activated, deploying solar sails with diameters of tens of kilometers to collect the immense energy of the stars. This energy was then transmitted to the disk device. A transport ship carrying hundreds of tons of core elements approached the back of the disk device, adding the valuable elements to the hyperspace engine. Once filled, the disk device lit up with a dazzling light and began to disintegrate, forming a massive ring with a diameter of over 10 kilometers. In the center of the ring, an energy vortex, visible to the naked eye, began to form, filled with immense power. As the vortex spun faster, hyperspace fluctuations intensified. Eventually, the vortex stabilized, forming a seemingly calm mirror in the middle of the ring, connecting to high-latitude hyperspace. Behind the ring, the first batch of 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers were in position, their hyperdrives activated. "Departure!" Cassio Tag, the fleet's commander-in-chief, shouted. The 20 Invincible-class battlecruisers immediately activated their hyperspace engines, passed through the ring device, and disappeared into space in an instant. End of this chapter. Chapter 1621, Planet Anji, the Core of War, Part 1. The southwestern part of the outer ring of the Milky Way, the capital of the Mordell sector, the planet Anji. This planet used to boast the best environment and the most favorable conditions in the modern star area. It is no wonder that after the development and growth of the Ale people, they left their home planet and established Anji as their administrative capital. Now, under the rule of the Principality of Dawn, the development of planet Anji has accelerated even further. The primary reason for this rapid growth is the superior living environment, which has attracted many immigrants from the planet Lundili. As a result, the population of Anji has surged from an initial 400 million to over 6 billion. Various companies and factories have been established, leading to significant economic growth. Anji is unique in the Mordel sector for its environment, resources, and transportation infrastructure. In the words of Stars, it is the only Gaia planet in the region. Although not large in scale, it has become the core of the entire star region. Consequently, most industries on Anji focus on the development of other planets and colonies within the Mordel sector. Walking along the main road of the planet's capital, one can see companies like the White Iron Mining Company, which specializes in mineral mining in the Kuna I galaxy, and Mana Construction Company, known for manufacturing colonial modular buildings. There is also Waikau Air Purification Co., Ltd., which transforms the atmospheres of mid-sized planets. While these companies may seem insignificant compared to the super enterprises of the Principality of Dawn, such as Tyron Heavy Industries, they have significantly contributed to the development of the Mordel star area. The Eru people, once the dominant race on Anji, have been subdued since their second rebellion. Their queen was publicly executed, and senior officials were arrested and shot. Pro-Fourth Civilization factions were fostered, and after extensive education and brainwashing, the Eru people have gradually integrated into the Fourth Civilization, becoming one of many races. With the influx of immigrants, primarily human races from Rendili, the Eru people have become a minority, and humans now dominate Anji. Interestingly, many Eru people, mostly women known for their beauty and melodious voices, have found work in the entertainment industry of the Fourth Civilization, producing many stars. The once arrogant Eru people have now become adept at singing and dancing, a stark contrast to their earlier dominance in the model sector. However, this planet, which has just begun to thrive, is once again shrouded in the mist of war. Residents of Anji have recently noticed an alarming number of warships appearing around the planet when they leave in spaceships. Many of these warships, such as the Behemoth-class battlecruisers, Hell's Angel-class battlecruisers, Doomsday Battlefield-class battlecruisers, and Catastrophe-class battlecruisers, were previously only seen in news reports. Now they loom ominously in real life, signaling a new and uncertain chapter for planet Anji. Battlecruisers and other warships with hideous and terrifying names appeared one after another in front of the residents, sending chills down their spines. Especially for those who had experienced the previous two battles in the model sector, the sight was utterly terrifying. Planet Anji was not a frontline planet. Despite rumors that a waterway had been forcibly opened under the powerful influence of the Jedi Knights, various experts, celebrities, and internet personalities had assured through multiple channels that this waterway was no longer navigable. The model star area was now considered the rear of the Principality of Dawn and was expected to become its economic center in the future. There were many opportunities, and everyone was encouraged to come and buy property. As a result, planet Anji had become a favored destination for immigrants, with security being a significant conseil, RN. However, the sudden appearance of these warships on planet Anji once again signaled the clear call of war. The authorities on planet Anji quickly announced the cessation of all intergalaxy communication and traffic, placing the entire planet under wartime control. This was tantamount to directly declaring the outbreak of war. Rumors began to spread across planet Anji. Some claimed that the Jedi Knights had reopened the waterway, others suggested that the Eru people had betrayed them again, and some speculated that Duke Liming coveted the wealth of planet Anji and intended to seize it. The most prevalent rumor was that the governor of the model sector, Volgograd Kennedy, was fed up with Duke Dawn Tang Xiao's war policies and sought independence from the Duchy of Dawn. Regardless of the rumor, the entire planet was gripped by panic and unease, leading to a skyrocketing crime rate. Many residents wanted to flee planet Anji to escape the impending war, but all such attempts were forcefully stopped. The fleet of the Principality of Dawn directly blockaded planet Anji, prohibiting all unofficial spaceships from taking off and preventing anyone from leaving. According to the official propaganda of the Principality of Dawn, whether you were Ailu or human, an aborigine or an immigrant from planet Lundili, if you were on planet Anji, This was now your home. At no time could the homeland be abandoned. The only choice was to stand and defend it. Relocating the entire planet was impossible, not to mention the injustice of some being able to leave while others could not. The enormous population of billions could not be resettled elsewhere. Even the Galactic Republic would not allow such an event to occur. The Duchy of Dawn also declared that its main fleet had arrived on planet Anji and would fight to the last for the people of the entire planet. However, for the frightened residents of planet Anji, such declarations offered little comfort. Port. Soon after, a large number of transport ships arrived on the planet, delivering a significant number of B-1 combat robots, army soldiers, and various armored vehicles. The heavily armed forces took over the management of every city on the planet and began organizing the residents to evacuate to the suburbs. End of this chapter. Chapter 1622, Planet Anji, The Core of War, Part 2. Please go home, do not wander around aimlessly, and wait for someone to come to your door to make evacuation arrangements. The mechanical, electronically synthesized voice echoed repeatedly over the capital of planet Anji. Below, the streets were filled with countless panicked residents, desperately running towards their homes. From now on, all food supplies will be rationed, and all residents will receive food on a community-by-community basis. Please follow the order and do not act excessively, as it will eventually harm others and yourself. A large number of soldiers from the Fourth Civilization Army, clad in Liberator II combat uniforms, patrolled the streets. They were heavily armed, each carrying an N7 Valkyrie assault rifle, the latest mass-produced model from Shenbao Standard Light Industry, known for its excellent performance and powerful capabilities. The soldiers had their helmet visors down, their expressions hidden, but their indifference was palpable. As they patrolled, any resident found disobeying orders or engaging in looting was swiftly knocked down with a gun butt. The B-1 combat robots following the soldiers would then grab the offenders and detain them in trucks. With war looming, there was no room for politeness or patience. Any behavior that could interfere with the war effort was dealt with directly and forcibly. We have built safe shelters on the outskirts of the city, allowing everyone to take refuge safely and avoid the flames of war. The military of the Principality of Dawn solemnly promises that we will protect the model sector and planet Anji. Any attempt to undermine the unity of the Principality will be punished as treason. On the road leading to the outskirts, a long line of hover trucks filled with residents advanced slowly. Following these trucks were vehicles transporting various supplies. The sheer number of vehicles caused severe congestion, with several spaceships directing traffic from above. The residents on the trucks looked terrified, uncertain of their future. Were they being taken to a prison, hell, or a concentration camp? They had no idea. The only thing they knew was that they had been thrust into a war, without warning, taken over by the army and controlled by soldiers armed to the teeth. Planet Anji is a part of the Mordell star region, and the Model Star region is an inalienable territory of the Duchy of Dawn. Anyone who makes speeches about splitting the Principality will be severely punished by the law. Liars, you liars. And Tang Xiao is the biggest liar. You just want to plunder our wealth. There is no war at all. There is no invasion at all. The Galactic Republic would never attack. This is all a scam. Fight for free Mordell. Expose the conspiracy of the Principality of Dawn. Oppose acts of aggression. In some streets, extremists from planet Anaki had assembled for demonstrations. They waved pistols and single-shot rifles, holding up slogans against the Principality of Dawn and shouting reactionary slogans. Demonstrations erupted in several major cities on the planet, with the largest gathering exceeding 20,000 people. Some of these parades headed towards TV stations and media centers, while others rushed directly to the city hall. The Public Security Bureau and police teams in the city responded immediately, but were unable to stop the angry mobs. The troops stationed in major cities by the Principality. The troops of the Duchy of Dawn had already started to move. Please disband the parade immediately and return home. This behavior will be forgiven, otherwise we will resort to all means necessary. The troops of the Duchy of Dawn arrived at the parade site one after another. They formed a wall with live ammunition, their weapons loaded and pointed at the parade. The Principality of Liming withdraws its troops. The Principality of Liming withdraws its troops. Several leaders shouted slogans loudly, inciting confrontation. Get out of our planet. An extremely angry mob. Ember took out a homemade Molotov cocktail and threw it directly at the army. Boom! A B-2 super combat robot in the army shattered the Molotov cocktail mid-air with a shot. A large amount of flammable liquid burned in the air, forming a large flame and splashing. The burning liquid splashed on the face of a mob member standing in the front, setting him ablaze. His screams filled the air. The Principality of Liming has killed people. The army has killed people. The scene suddenly became chaotic. Boom, boom, boom. With a few precise shots, several people in the crowd who seemed to have ulterior motives were shot in the head. Despite the shooting and use of force, the soldiers of the Principality of Liming held their guns steadily. Their hearts were calm, and they didn't panic because someone shot. On the contrary, the mob became terrified. Some rushed forward angrily, while others fled in all directions. The scene became chaotic. Robots, set your blasters to stun mode and clear the scene immediately, an army officer commanded. Roger! Roger! The commander of the B-1 battle robots gave a comical military salute, then led a large number of B-1 battle robots. They set their E-5 blaster rifles to stun mode and began to shoot at the mob, ruthlessly strafing the parade. Such scenes took place in all the cities where demonstrations broke out on the planet Anji. The well-trained army of the Principality of Dawn suppressed all demonstrations with lightning speed. More than 100,000 mob members were arrested and sent to centralized discipline. These people would be sent to the battlefield as cannon fodder in future wars, responsible for their own actions. Don't you want to defend your homeland? Here is your chance. As for the approximately 4,000 people who were killed in these crackdowns, there was no opportunity for public opinion to ferment. No one even knew such a thing had happened. Everything served the war. Volgograd Kennedy, the governor of the Model Star region, held a public press conference that night. The location of the reception was chosen among the Argonev-class interstellar bases built on the outskirts of planet Anji. Governor Kennedy spoke to all the residents of the model sector, reiterating their determination to firmly stand on the side of the Duchy of Dawn and fight against the Galactic Republic to the end. He stated that the war was initiated by the Galactic Republic. Although the residents of the model sector loved peace, they had no choice but to resist to the end. He cited the tragedies and injustices that happened on the planets Kali, Jabim, and Rhodia, accused the Galactic Republic of crimes, and expressed his determination to fight. Chapter 1623, Problems in the Model Sector. The prestige of the governor of the model sector, Volgograd Kennedy, is unrivaled in the entire region. In the eyes of many residents of the model star area, it was Kennedy who personally led them to reclaim land bit by bit, colonize it, and then develop and grow steadily. Throughout this process, the Fourth Civilization's support to the model sector was minimal. All the strategic focus of the Fourth Civilization was placed on the Eriadu Galaxy, and almost all the products produced by their industrial capacity were limited to Eriadu, turning it into an extremely formidable fortress galaxy. After satisfying Eriadu's needs, the next priority was the core of the Fourth Civilization, Dawn Planet. This clearly shows that in the mind of Grand Duke Liming Tang Xiao, the importance of the planet Eriadu surpasses even that of Dawn Planet. Without Eriadu, the Fourth Civilization would have no chance of competing for control of the Milky Way. It is akin to the Shu Han during the Three Kingdoms period. Losing Jingzhou meant losing the last hope of restoring the Han dynasty. Cao Wei could simply send troops from Yizhou, secure a few passes, and ensure their rear was as stable as Mount Tai, slowly wearing down their enemies. For the Fourth Civilization, without the hyperspace channel of Eriadu, the Galactic Republic could easily blockade them. This situation is vastly different from when the war first broke out. At that time, the Galactic Republic only saw Dawn Planet as a relatively powerful industrial planet, posing less of a threat compared to Eriadu, which was already in conflict with Sullust. Now, if the Galactic Republic regains Eriadu, they could completely block the Fourth Civilization, even without mobilizing their entire army. They have come to understand that the threat posed by the Fourth Civilization is second only to the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. For Darth Sidious himself, this threat is the highest, as it is the territory of the dead angel. Before the second battle in the model sector, many colonies, industries, and agricultural foundations in this sector were established by Volgograd Kennedy and his people. He laid the economic foundations of the model sector. During the second battle of the Model Star District, Master Yoda, the supreme leader of the Jedi Order, personally led his troops, opened up the hyperspace channel, and launched a large-scale invasion. Volgograd Kennedy stood up once again. Without asking for support from Dawnstar, he single-handedly repelled the Republic army led by Master Yoda, allowing Tang Xiao to concentrate his forces on capturing the Eriadu Galaxy. In that series of battles, Volgograd Kennedy's contributions were paramount. For the people in the Model Star area, they believed that the victory of this battle was solely due to Kennedy repelling Master Yoda without any reinforcement from Dawnstar. Consequently, Kennedy's reputation soared, and in many municipal squares, people spontaneously erected statues in his honor. Following this, the planet Rendili joined the Fourth Civilization, and a large number of immigrants began to migrate to the model sector. These immigrants initially had little sense of identity with Tang Xiao and the Fourth Civilization, and even harbored resentment towards Tang Xiao for forcing them to leave their homes. However, upon arriving in the Model Star area, they witnessed Volgograd Kennedy's policies and measures firsthand. Comparing the two, they gradually came to admire Kennedy, influenced by the local residents, and developed a more critical view of Dawnstar. In the current situation, there are actually, in the entire Model Star region, only two groups remain loyal to Tang Xiao. The first is the Vathian, a centaur-shaped insect race known for their honesty and integrity. They have steadfastly supported Tang Xiao from the very beginning. The second group consists of the native humans on the planet Anji. Tang Xiao rescued them from the slavery of the Ailu people, and they will never forget this kindness. However, these loyalists have now become a minority. The situation in the Model Star area presents a significant challenge for Tang Xiao. He cannot address the sector's issues directly because Volgograd Kennedy has managed every aspect exceptionally well. If Tang Xiao were to resort to violence or create a climate of fear, it would backfire. Instead of gaining more control over the model sector, it would likely lead to widespread rebellion and betrayal. Moreover, the opinions of people in other star regions cannot be ignored. The entire Duchy of Dawn is currently in a state of war, and society is under immense pressure. This high-stress environment has persisted for nearly 3 years, leaving everyone on edge. If the conflict in the model sector were to escalate, it would undoubtedly trigger unrest in other star sectors as well. Tang Xiao has a clear understanding of Volgograd Kennedy's loyalty. He knows that as long as Kennedy remains, there is a final safeguard in the model sector. Solving the problems in the model star area is a test for both Kennedy and Tang Xiao. To become the Supreme King, defeating the enemy is only the first step. If Tang Xiao wished, he could become a humanoid natural disaster, wreaking havoc everywhere. The entire Duchy of Dawn might collapse within a few years. Even the Galactic Republic would suffer a catastrophic disaster. Tang Xiao alone is stronger than the Duchy of Dawn, but what would be the point? To unify the power of the entire Duchy of Dawn, it is not necessary for everyone to be loyal. Instead, the goal is for the entire duchy to move forward with a common purpose, to fight against the enemy together, to develop, expand, and strive, and ultimately to walk the path of kingship. This task is far more challenging than simply killing people. Volgograd Kennedy finished his speech and returned to the captain's cabin. He poured a little wine into the cold cup of coffee on the table and picked it up to drink. At that moment, the image of his former adjutant, He Yuan, flashed in his mind. If He Yuan were here, he would not have allowed Kennedy to do this. Kennedy sighed, put the coffee back on the table, and pressed the calm button to request a fresh cup of coffee. After a while, the door of the captain's cabin opened. A man entered, carrying a cup of hot coffee and some delicious snacks. It was not his orderly, but his outstanding military general, Jin Chen. Chapter 1624, The Last Moment. If you want to reap the fruits of freedom, You must first endure the labor of maintaining freedom. Biographies of the Founding Heroes of the Fourth Reich, Chapter 9 of the Biography of Daphne Clement. I don't remember military affairs being so lax that a major general can come over to serve coffee, Volgograd Kennedy remarked, raising his eyelids. They forced you to put He Yuan under house arrest. This should not have happened, Jin Chen replied. They also want to lock you up, so you should stop talking about this topic before I order you to be confined. Kennedy's tone grew colder. If it was your order, I wouldn't have any complaints. But now, all I see is a brutal military occupation, Jin Chen said. They drove all the people on the planet Anji out of their homes and stuffed them into crowded underground shelters. They cut off communications and transportation. This is destroying the planet. If we don't control communication and cut off transportation, all our actions and deployments here will be on Palpatine's desk tomorrow. Don't you know that? Kennedy said lightly. But where is the enemy? Jin Chen countered. The Galactic Republic is doing all it can to attack the planet Yago-Dur. At the same time, they have begun to attack the key point of the Confederacy of Independent Galaxies, the planet Salukami. Their offensive has already begun, but it can't be here. Do you think the millions of troops and large fleets that came to Anji's planet are here for a vacation? Kennedy asked. Your Excellency, from the beginning to the end, Tang Xiao was the only one who insisted that there would be an attack from the Republic fleet in the model sector. Could it be that just because of his words, our entire planet was turned upside down? Jin Chen raised his voice. That's right, he has the power and strength, Kennedy replied bluntly. Go back to your post and check the situation of all combat units again. We must be in a state of combat readiness at all times. He personally took the coffee and snacks off the tray in Jin Chen's hand and placed them on his table, signaling the end of the conversation. For the troops that came here, the officers at all levels are all members of the Lixing planet. There is actually no need for me to do anything, Jin Chen sneered. It must be the same for the fleet. Those captains are all Tang Xiao's people. They listen to Tang Xiao's instructions. Maybe at some point, they will turn the turrets and point them at our planet. Under Kennedy's beard, on his already wrinkled face, a trace of anger gradually appeared. I can accept your different political opinions, but I will not accept your negligence in your post. If this happens again, you will report directly to the confinement room. Yes, Your Excellency, Governor. That's all I wanted to say. Jin Chen stood at attention and gave a military salute, then turned and walked out with the tray in his arms. Kennedy took a sip of coffee, then turned on the communication and said, Notify the 4th Battle Group. The rotation will end within an hour, and then start the actual combat exercise. Yes, sir. At this moment, in the outer orbit of Anji's planet, several civilian space stations and spaceports that were originally bustling have been moved to the side of the planet under the drag of barges, avoiding the flames of war as much as possible. An extremely huge Argonev-class interstellar base, its massive structure replacing the bustling trading port, became the core building near the orbit. This Argonev-class interstellar base was built after Master Yoda's invasion. It is a colossal diamond-shaped base with a side length of 10,000 meters, boasting almost endless energy and powerful firepower. Around the interstellar base, a large number of ghost fighters flew in formation, starting from here and conducting combat cruises. In the surrounding airspace, thousands of Gauss combat platforms were densely deployed around the planet. Engineering ships busily constructed MIM, or platforms, each equipped with 2 large-caliber Gauss cannons, 2 sets of 8 mounted missile launchers, and 2 sets of close-in laser weapons. These fixed turrets guarded the key areas of the planet Anji. Hundreds of space hangar platforms had also entered a state of readiness, their shielding systems constantly active. These invisible hangar platforms would serve as surprise assets in combat. Tens of billions of air mines were deployed in all key areas of the defense zone, with additional mines placed in outer space beyond the gravitational circle, where an incoming fleet from the Republic might approach. These air mines, equipped with identification friend or foe systems, would accurately target any approaching enemy ships. The hyperspace disruptor was also in constant operation, acting as a reverse hyperspace blocker. While it couldn't prevent enemy ships from jumping into the area via hyperspace, it could disrupt their navigation devices, slowing down their calculations and impeding their ability to jump back into hyperspace. Additionally, numerous maintenance platforms and energy supply platforms were part of the defense system of the Duchy of Dawn. These platforms were technically straightforward. The maintenance platforms, similar to the Xingzi-class drone mothership, were equipped with numerous drones and nano-robots, providing on-the-spot repairs for damaged warships. The energy supply platforms, equipped with a shield replenishment system akin to that of the Dunov-class battlecruiser, could remotely replenish the shield capacitance of Allied battleships. The deployment of these platforms was made possible by advancements in the production process and industrial technology of the Principality of Dawn, which had reduced the production costs of the Xingzi-class maintenance drone carrier and the Dunov-class battlecruiser. This allowed these systems to be used in fixed defense systems. If production costs were higher, it would be more practical to allocate resources to battleships, which are more versatile for advancing, attacking, retreating, and defending. In fact, if cost were not an issue, the engineers of the Principality of Dawn would even consider designing a particle-light spear cannon. Planet Anji was fully prepared for defense. At this moment, Darth Malthael sat meditating with his eyes closed on a satellite of planet number 3 in the Inagi system. Despite the low gravity and lack of air, he remained firmly grounded, unaffected by the vacuum. Not far in front of him lay 3 wreckages resembling hills, 2 destroyed Jaeger-class battlecruisers and a Cheerer-class assault landing ship, blown into 2 pieces. These ships had likely been shot down during the last battle to invade the Motterstar area and had crashed onto this satellite. Darth Malthael was there, sensing the death that lingered among the 3 ships. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. A strong sense of crisis surged from the Force.